Welcome to Carb Day at Indianapolis. It's the final practice before the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500. But it's not the only thing we have for you in the next 2.5 hours. We also have the Indy Pro Series race, as well as the annual pit stop competition. $100,000 on the line. We're in the motor racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you can see drivers already getting strapped into their cars. We had a morning shower, which has given way to partly cloudy skies, but we're getting a dry racetrack. The jet dryers are almost done. We will have cars for the last hour. Now, Sam Hornish getting into the cockpit soon, as he'll be getting ready to go out in this final practice session. Remember what happened last Sunday? He was luckily in his backup car, because he ended up hitting the wall into turn number 2 when the back end stepped out on him. Had it been his primary car and they couldn't fix it, he'd have been at the back of the field, but it was the backup car, so he's okay. That was Sunday. Let's get more from Jack.
Marty, that was then, and this is now. For Sam Hornish Jr., this is the final opportunity to get ready for what he says he would trade both his championships and all his poles for, and that's a sip of milk in victory lane on Sunday as the Indy 500 champion. All right, Sam, so with just a limited number of laps today, what is your hit list as a driver and as part of this Marlboro Team Penske pole-winning team?
First thing is just the mechanical check. Make sure there's no leaks, everything's tight, everything's functioning properly. Probably do a little bit of laps with a full amount of fuel in it, just to make sure that the car is handling the way we expect it to. Everything, balanced. They rebuild these cars so in between qualifying, so they got it. Everything has kind of a little spot that it fits into. So we're just going to make sure everything's just right, and probably doing a couple ins, off of the track, every other time that we come here throughout the year, and also, all the way up until Carb Day. We have to come into the pits off and going into turn 3, so now we get to come in off of 4. So we got to make sure the brakes are all set right so that we don't lock up the tires coming in too much and flat spot the tires.
It's also a good opportunity for you, as they say, when you fall off a horse, to get back on the horse before you go for real for 500 miles after what happened last Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to go out there and make sure that you've got all the cobwebs knocked out and that everything feels just right. And we understand what happened to us last Sunday as part of working on the car and trying to make it better, and it was unfortunate that it happened, but we're going to try to take as many good things out of it as what we can and move on.
Jerry, Sam Hornish Jr. will be flanked on that front row by his teammate Helio Castroneves.
Danica, Patrick, getting suited up for Carb Day here to go out and see what's going to happen. Let's check in. Danica, what is the protocol? What's the plan today?
Pretty much just to make sure the balance on the car is good. Try and find a good downforce level. Basically, since it's going to be so hot on Sunday, if the car feels like it's a little bit overstuck, we might leave it. If it feels like it's right on the edge of too little downforce, we'll put some on, because with the heat, you need more downforce.
With the panos problems you guys had early in the month, how comfortable are you? I know you were very comfortable on pole day. How comfortable with this race day setup?
I think that the race car is pretty good. I think that, we're still not the quickest, obviously, but we're a little bit more in the hunt, a little easier. It's not so difficult. And I think that's because, like I was telling the guys, I'm like, we need to work on this car just going fast, period, because once we put some downforce on, I think it'll be good. And that's true. It was good when we put the downforce on it. So we'll go from here.
Hey, good luck in this final session.
Thank you.
Danica Patrick will start 10th on Sunday. Jamie?
Well, Michael Andretti, one of the busiest men out here today alone. Not only is he getting back in the car, he has to shake things down in this final practice, but he has 4 other cars to worry about, including his son. I know you got to go to New York and spend a little time with your son and take him through what we call the car wash and the media tour. How did things go?
Oh, it went really smooth. A lot of hard work, though. This week is just crazy, Can't wait to get in the car and just feel the quietness of the cockpit, because it's just been crazy.
Now, Michael, also you have 2 cars fielded in the Infinity Pro Series race, which we're going to see later on. And all the things that you have going on, what's the #1 priority today?
Today, Oh, I don't know. We got a lot of them, you know. If you're in the Infinity Pro Series or the Indy Pro Series, it's win that race. And if you're here, we want to get a good race setup on all 5 cars. So we have a lot. Then we want to win the pit stop competition. So we got a lot going on today.
And yeah, you need to find a little more speed to beat your son here, right?
Speed's one thing, consistency's another, and I think we got a good consistent car with the Jim Beam Vonage car.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, and to build on those comments from Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., the 2-time Indy 500 winner, feels very similar. He doesn't have the speed to compete with the Ganassis or the Penskes or even the AGRs for that matter. But Al Unser Jr. believes he's got a very comfortable race car, and they'll look to confirm that during this Carburetion Day practice. They'll run less than 20 laps just to make sure that the car is as comfortable as it was at the end of the last practice session that they had. So Al Unser Jr. knows he doesn't have the speed to compete with the fast ones, but he says, I've won a lot of races in my careers with worse cars than this one.
All right, thanks, Vince. Let's bring in Rusty Wallace and Scott Goodyear. Rusty first. Let's talk about the morning rain shower. What's it do to the rubber that was on the track?
Well, the rubber's still on the racetrack, Marty. We still got some rubber on the racetrack, but what's different here, we've got cooler track conditions than we're really going to have on Sunday. This is a little bit of a fooler. It's about 11 o'clock. We're not going to have the temperatures we're going to have on Sunday. So these guys, this is the best shot they get, but I don't think it's going to be exactly the same.
All right, let's take a look at the weather first, and this is what we have right now. The practice average, Scott, has been 67. Pole day was 67. Bump day. And let's talk about temperatures on race day.
And that's the big problem that we face right now. I mean, the temperature on race day is going to go on 2 different directions. Number one, it's going to affect the cars, and it's going to affect the drivers. With the cars themselves, the track is going to become very greasy. The cars will not have as much grip as they did throughout practice days or even today, so that's going to be a problem for the drivers. Also, cockpit temperatures about 130, 135 degrees inside the cockpit, and there's no cool suits here in these cars, folks, not like the NASCARs like my buddy Rusty has. So what ends up happening here, these guys will be in the cars for 3.5 hours on Sunday, trying to get that thing going around there as quickly as they can.
Well, guess what? Cars are out on the racetrack, and we are going to be back with a lot of action and hopefully nobody sliding towards those concrete walls. We're going to tiptoe a little bit. ESPN2's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 Carb Day is presented by Checkers and Rallies, the official burger of the Indianapolis 500. And in part by Scott's Turf Builder Plus 2. Kills dandelions and gives you a thick green lawn. And Honda, the company that defines performance in motorcycles, ATVs, personal watercraft, and scooters. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, already a couple of warm-up laps. Jack Arute is down in the Penske pits. Let's get more.
One thing you get impressed as you watch Team Penske operate for both Castroneves and pole sitter Hornish is the way everything is methodical. This we are witnessing right now is called an install check. They made 2.5 mile circuit of the racetrack, pulled in, and they are checking everything from the installation of the Honda power plant to the way Sam Hornish and Helio Castroneves' tear-offs operate. One thing I should tell you guys is when you were discussing about the setup and the difference on Sunday, I asked the Team Penske guys, how far different is it? And he said, right now we're 50% of where we will be on Sunday, Jerry, in terms of aero and downforce.
And Jack, essentially the same thing is happening here in the Argent Pioneer pits for Rahal Letterman driver Danica Patrick. Now they pull off the engine cover and make sure that the lines, the cables that run from the clutch assembly don't vibrate, loosening it down on the engine. That's what happened with Scott Dixon at Motegi. Cost him a clutch problem, probably cost him the win at Motegi. That's part of the install check. Side pods now coming off to look at radiators. All the connections are tight. And by the way, every time they go out and come back in, they will practice pit stops. Why, you say? Well, they make pit stops all the time, but on this race, they will make 7 or 8 pit stops on Sunday afternoon. And remember, a year ago, Danica Patrick stalled the car in the pits. It could have cost her a shot at the race. It didn't. They want to make sure she understands how the clutch works, how they change tires, and now she gets off this concrete surface where they're pitting here at Indianapolis. Guys?
Very good point, Jerry, as we've seen a number of races decided by mistakes made coming out of pit lane. In fact, Marco Andretti, 2 out of the first 3 races, guys, we talked about, he broke half shafts. He hammered the throttle so hard. That's one of the things he has to concentrate on. We're under a running yellow right now. We're getting ready to turn the track green. We talked about how it's a fine line here. You want to see what your car will do, but you also don't want to step over and end up taking yourself out of the race.
patience has to be at point here today as it does actually on race day. You have to have patience all the way around, and this day is about patience also. We've seen people throw the cars away here because you want to find the limit, but the running yellow that we had is important because of the rain that we had this morning, but also there are some yellow lights going down the backstretch into 3 that shows you when the pits are closed because of a yellow caution period. Those lights were up this morning along with the yellow lights going into pit lane to show the drivers there when the pits are closed at that location also. So the running yellow has done a couple of things for these drivers this morning. Remember, they've not been in the car since last Sunday.
Well, we're definitely talking about taking everything easy. That's what we've been talking about all day long. But they've got to kind of stand on the gas pretty hard here because this is their last chance for the Indy 500. They've got to make sure the car's right. The temperature is as close as it's going to be. It's still not there yet from what we think it's going to be on Sunday. But these guys have got to step it up. They've got to make sure they got the right downforce. These cars are handling right.
You see the telemetry on Helio Castroneves, 2-time winner here at the Indianapolis 500. You realize if he wins on Sunday, he'd be the youngest 3-time winner ever?
I said that to him last night, and you know something? He looked at me and he goes, I didn't know that. Maybe he's not so much into history, he's just making history as he goes along.
You got that right. You know, last night we had a meeting with Rick Mears and some people like that at a dinner we all went to, and we were talking about these cars and about Sam Hornish losing it off of turn 2, Marty, when he lost it. And Mears stepped up and said, you know what, guys? He said, cars talk to you. He said, these Indy cars whisper. He says, you really got to be careful when you're out there running. It's not like a car. It's not like a stock car. When you know it's loose, it's going to get loose, and you can drive through it. These babies, something's telling you, hey, you're just about ready to get in trouble, Scott, and they get you, man.
And Marty, I think the one thing, if I may add to both you guys, to Rusty and Marty, is that these cars, and everybody talks about this racetrack, why you have problems here. Remember, you're doing 225, 230 miles an hour versus a lot of other tracks that we go to. So when you make a mistake, it's just amplified because of the speed, and you usually don't get a chance to catch it and bring it back underneath you. So when you start to lose it here, you know you're on the way to having a big accident.
You can see Helio Castroneves bringing the speed up his last lap, 216 miles an hour. We got a bit of a traffic jam out there.
And they want this, Marty. They want the traffic jam. They want some cars to run with, not only their own teammate, but other people, because they really need to figure out what's going to go on Sunday. So this is not a bad thing, although they do have to be careful.
Now remember, Sam Hornish is coming behind 2 cars, and it's exactly what happened here coming into the same turn 1, just last practice day where he ended up losing the car. So I can tell you as a driver, you're going to tiptoe just a little bit behind those 2 cars and make sure you've got the right car underneath you and get that feel, that whisper that you were talking about before.
That last lap was a definite tiptoe, 208 miles an hour. Good for us on the freeway, but obviously not up to full song yet for Sam.
Well, you could tell they're very timid out there right now. They're taking everything nice and easy, and they're feeling this car out, going, okay, it's stuck. Yeah, let's go a little faster. Okay, it's still stuck. It's still stuck. They're bringing it up very easy right now, guys.
Let's get more on Jack Arute.
Well, actually, we're going to get more on Sam Hornish Jr. And he likes his hot rod, as Rusty Wallace likes to say. In fact, Rusty, right now, they are going through simulations, as you alluded to. Watch for the next time that the Marlboro Penske cars pull onto pit road. One or the other will actually simulate a wing change. These are the things that separate Team Penske from others. Nothing is left to chance. They go through all the various scenarios.
No detail is left unlooked at, as they are very, very technically oriented to getting every possible scenario. We've still got a lot more coming your way. There is the captain. Don't forget the Indy Pro Series race and the pit stop competition as well. Memorial Day weekend means the greatest spectacle in racing. Join us here at the legendary Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500, telecast presented by Capital One. Sunday, May 28th, noon Eastern, right here on ABC. Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, practice continuing, and we can tell you Sam Hornish has stepped up the program, guys. He's up to 220 miles an hour.
Very nice run. Couple of laps, that 208 lap that we saw before, and then all of a sudden, boy, he's now about a mile an hour faster than Rice, and then Kanaan, and then Dixon. So it's interesting how quickly this all changes, and he certainly knows he has the car and the team underneath him. He's got to finish the race, though, guys.
Let's bring in Jack Arute.
Well, the Penske team has gone into their pit stop mode. One of the keys, though, fellas, is they don't go through the entire mode. What I mean by that is each and every time, Sam Hornish and Helio Castroneves will kill the engine. The reason for that is you have a limited number of laps today with these new Honda engines. So take full advantage of the roll into the pit box, make your changes, then download the information because it's also driven these Honda engines, and make sure that everything is up to snuff. Very shortly, though, they will have, before they run out of the 22 laps, they'll have one full green flag pit stop. Then they'll go to the barn. Guys?
And as we come back out on the track, Sam Hornish at 220.698, so he has stepped up the program a little bit more. Let's talk about the engine and the number of laps. Some of our viewers may not be aware of how the Honda program works.
And basically, there's 2 Honda programs here this month. If you are a full month of May runner, as they call it, then you're going to have an engine for practice and qualifying, and then you got a new engine to install for Carb Day being today, because we see some great teammate work going on here between Tony Kanaan and Brian Herta running nose to tail and swapping ends. And then if you are what they call a second weekend qualifier or a second weekend participant this year, because everybody was a second weekend qualifier with the rain, what you end up doing is that you are now having the motor in for your qualifying run, and you use the same motor for the race itself. Now remember, these Honda engines are going 1,200 miles, and a lot of teams tell me they think they run best when they actually have a couple hundred miles on them. So, you know, maybe the guys that have had them in for the whole month maybe aren't doing such a bad job after all.
Jerry, we're on board with Tony Kanaan. What's the latest from his pit?
Marty, exactly what Scott Goodyear was saying a moment ago. With a limited amount of mileage allowed today by Honda, Kanaan is in really good shape. Why? Because he has 4 other teammates on the track right now, and they can each try different front wing settings, trying to accommodate for what's going to be the very high track temperatures, you know, on Sunday as Kanaan knifes his way through traffic. That's exactly what he wanted to see. With this wing setting, would the car be able to go from the bottom of the racetrack to the top? Would he be able to back out and then jump back in the throttle without losing the nose of the car? Tony Kanaan just found out something very valuable that'll help him on Sunday.
Well, guys, as you can see, it's all about handling. Hey, forget about how fast these cars are running, Scott. These things have got to handle good, and we're watching these lap speeds right now. Hornish is at 220, but guess what? Dixon, Rice, and Kanaan, 219.5 right on his bumper right now. So it's all about handling, and we just watched Kanaan do a little knife edge maneuver there, so he has to have confidence to do something like that.
I think Michael Andretti's probably happy he's inside the cockpit right now, because if he'd have seen that on the monitor, he might have had heart failure for a second.
And you know, just watching him go around, we've seen him all month actually just start to work on his race car. I asked him yesterday, I said, I've been around on all the turns out here, and I've watched you drive the car. You're spending a lot of time in traffic. You seem like you're very comfortable. Are you really confident? And he just gave that grin that tells you that he feels that he's got something for race day. And the other thing I think we should note is that you saw him using a different helmet when he went by. He's got Rubens Barrichello's helmet on right this weekend because they've exchanged, and Ruben Barrichello in Monaco will be using Tony Kanaan's helmet because they're both doing a special switch for a charity that they have in Brazil. So we'll see him with a different helmet. It's not a different driver. It's Tony Kanaan, just with a different helmet.
We're looking at 19-year-old rookie Marco Andretti. So far, he has turned in his best lap at 218.7 miles an hour. That's 5th quickest today. Jamie, you've got more?
But right now, as we watch Marco Andretti, he's working on gearing. They said the gears are too long. Now, somebody asked him about his realistic expectations about the outcome of this race, and we see Marco Andretti pull in. They will practice a pit stop because we will see him in a pit stop challenge later on today. So somebody asked him what his realistic expectations are, if he could do it up and be another, you know, Danica Patrick phenomenon kind of thing. And he said, you know, Danica has some big shoes to fill. And we have a yellow for debris on the track as we continue watching the number 26 of Marco Andretti. And he said there's big shoes to fill to overcome and achieve what Danica Patrick did last year. But like you guys said, I mean, he's confident in a way, but he doesn't know what to expect. His dad is trying everything he can to let him know what's going to happen. But guys, you can't be told everything. You got to sit in the seat and go for it yourself. And you see some girl fans right there. Good luck. Marco Andretti making his debut here in Indianapolis.
All right, thanks, Jamie. And you heard her say it is debris on the racetrack that has caused this yellow. Let's talk about, just for our new fans that may be tuning in, what did she was referring to as far as the gears being too long?
So what ends up happening with these engines, you have 10,300 RPM rev limit, and you want to touch the rev limiter maybe just behind traffic going down to turn 1 and 3 in top gear and 6th gear. So it looks like now that maybe he's only using 4th, might be getting into 5th. That means he's not using the available gear ratios that are in the car. So watch for the back end of the car to come off just over in this area here. And what they'll end up doing is taking that off and replacing some gear sets, and they have ample time to do that.
Well, as you look at Marco Andretti, he is obviously coming from a long lineage of great racers, and it's, his grandfather has had a lot of time to think about his favorite moments, how special it is. Just ask the legends.
Now stay tuned for the greatest spectacle in racing.
There's no race in the world that compares with the Indy 500. To be fortunate enough to win, there's just no greater thrill.
The main thing to me is it puts you on a pedestal.
Indianapolis has something no other track I know of has, and that's tradition.
Ladies and gentlemen,
start your engines.
A lot of stories with Indianapolis 500, and I'm very proud to be one of the stories.
When you win a championship or you win Indianapolis, you just have to pinch yourself.
People see me at Indy throw fits. People see me have a lot of fun. That's what made AJ Foyt.
Tomorrow on ESPN2, it's 2 hours celebrating Sunday's running of the 90th Indianapolis 500. First at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's the Indy 500 Festival Parade. Then at 7:30, it's Ready to Race. Sam Hornish, Dan Weldon, Danica Patrick, among those who are going to analyze this year's 500. It's all tomorrow night right here on ESPN2. And we're under yellow here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gives us a chance to check in again with Jack Arute.
Well, guys, you know this gentleman. They call him the captain. 13 poles, 13 Indy 500 champions. Roger Penske, what accounts for the success of your Marlboro Team Penske operation?
Well, I think, Jack, it's all about our people, the continuity of the teams, Matt Johnson and certainly Rick Reineman, Tim Cindric, the people who have been with us, Clive Hall and Tom Wirtz. These guys have done a tremendous job, and you know we've got great drivers, and we've got continuity and we've got reliability. So it's going to be a big race for us this weekend.
One of the things that you have a propensity for doing is somewhere during the course of 500 miles, you elect to split your drivers up in terms of pit strategy. When do you make that decision?
Well, Tim and I'll talk about that over the next couple of days, and then we'll talk. I can talk to him on this radio during the race, so we'll decide maybe he'll do one thing and I'll do the other, just to be sure we stay competitive with the other teams.
Fellas, that's one of the things we'll watch down here on pit road on Sunday.
And just as you finish, Jack, the green flag flies, and Roger Penske's had quite a bit of success with that strategy. Take a look. 13 wins, 13 poles, 9 different winning drivers, and 33 front row starts. What about some of the other contenders? Jerry Punch.
Well, down here in the Target Ganassi pits, Barry Wander, the guy in front of me, makes the call on the radio with Dan Weldon, but this is a man here that runs the whole show. And Chip Ganassi, your cars currently sit 2nd and 11th on the speed charts. What are you trying to accomplish with Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon here in this session?
You know, Jerry, I mean, it's a, you know, this is a condition that's a little more closer to Sunday, so we're just making some small adjustments. You don't want to go too crazy on adjustments today, but you want to make some fundamental ones. Some fundamental questions are unanswered yet. We're trying to get them answered here this morning.
Dan Weldon told us that you actually talked to him on the radio on race day. You have a very vital role. What do you tell him?
Well, you know, I'm fortunate. I got a lot of good guys around me here. These days I probably do more listening. But, you know, from time to time, I try to keep him informed of what's around, what we're thinking up here, keep him settled down on the yellow flag, that kind of thing.
All right, a lot of folks in the garage area say they chased the Penske almost long for the pole. They'll be chasing the Ganassi cars on race day. Marty?
Well, speaking of the Ganassi cars, they are 2nd fastest right now with Scott Dixon at 2:19.9. And then as you see the number 10 car in the number 11 spot right now, there is Dan Weldon across the top of your screen at 2:16 and change. You know, Chip brings up a good point, guys. You drivers, when you're in the cockpit of the car, especially in the long races, it's hard to know the big scheme of things, how other cars are performing. It is a help to have somebody that you can trust.
It's a big help, Marty, to be talking to the pit area, because you're out there driving as hard as you possibly drive. You don't know what the scenarios are playing out to be. Guys might be pitting, you might not know that. You might be thinking your car can go farther in fuel when it really can't go farther in fuel. There's a lot of things you need that help, and you need somebody to calm you down. And then sometimes you need somebody to build your confidence also. So Chip's really good at that, and so is Penske, and so is a lot of these other owners.
Right now, we're taking a look at Dario Franchitti out on the track as he continues. He's the 9th fastest right now at 217 miles an hour. Vince, you've got more on Dario's situation?
Well, Dario Franchitti has been chasing his setup all month long, and I just spoke with John Anderson, who's handling his race strategy this month, who handled Dan Weldon's race strategy a year ago with the victory lane. But John Anderson said they just haven't been able to get a handle on it. They want to run in traffic today, but the car at this point isn't quite comfortable enough to run as close into traffic as they'd like. So that's one of the things they'll be trying to fine-tune here today.
Well, he's got some traffic right now. He's a sandwich. Whoa, a lot of sparks coming off of the car right in front of him there. We'll show you the telemetry.
What he ends up doing is he sees that, maybe backs off just a little bit to try and get a run going down the straightaway. Remember, those sparks are really just determined there because maybe the car's just gone out. It's got a heavy fuel load, low tire pressures. The cars will actually touch the ground going through the turns just a little bit until the fuel load burns off. The tire pressures come up and start to raise the car off the ground. Remember, these cars are designed to go down the straightaway and just continue pressing towards the ground until it just almost touches the ground going into the turn at maximum speed.
That car right in front of him is the 97 of Stefan Gregoire. He'll start 30th in the field. So, and boy, a lot more sparks than we normally see.
Well, he's got a lot more in that particular turn. Remember, the wind is a little bit different right now. It's coming from turn 4 to turn 3. So every time he turns into that turn, there's a little bit more downforce being pressed down on that car through the tunnels and the under tray and also over the wings. And so that's why he's probably having it more so in turn 3 than he would do in turn 1 when the wind is behind him.
Well, these guys want to get these cars run as low as they possibly can. The air pressure's probably down. And Scott, you're right. They've got downforce. These cars are actually pressing the car down into the racetrack harder. That's the reason you're seeing the spark. Now, if it's too aggressive and the driver can't stand it, they're going to come in and change the ride height a little bit on the car. It might be a spring rate change or maybe even a rear wing change. But that's the reason you're seeing these sparks right now.
Jerry, what are you hearing down in the pits about the wind?
Well, very interesting, guys. Rusty and Scott, you guys are talking about how the wind affects these cars. What the engineers down here, as you look at Scott Dixon, what the Ganassi engineers are telling us is that, as Scott mentioned, the wind today is out of the west, sort of moving across turns 3 and 4, and it will actually help correct an understeer. But what they're being told is, on race day, guys, the wind will be blowing out of the south, much warmer, much more humid, and the understeer can become a factor. And my question is, Rusty and Scott, how do you compensate for a wind change today versus what's going to happen on Sunday?
Well, you've got the wind situation absolutely correct, and that's what we were talking about in turn 3, Doc. And the wind last year in this race was also coming out of the south, so it's coming out of turn 1 going down into turn 4. And what you do is you look at the windsock going down into turn 1 or on the top of the grandstands, Rusty, as you know from driving the stock cars here, and that windsock tells you a lot. Now, yes, you look at that when you're going down the front stretch at 230 miles an hour. You may not if you're sitting in traffic, but you certainly peak up every 5 laps. And that windsock, how strong it's blowing, will actually tell you how you are going to turn into the turn, how aggressive you are, and the line that you are actually taking in through the turns, whether it's turn 1 or turn 3. And as you ride along with Scott Dixon right now, just going around traffic, flat on the gas, very confident of his race car. He certainly looked at the windsock going into 3 also, Marty.
You know, when I was a driver, Scott, I would tell the guys, hey, it's windy down in turn 3 going to turn 3 at Daytona. And the crew chief come across the radio and said, Rusty, I can't control the weather. You're just going to have to drive this thing. So my best answer to that, how do you compensate for this wind like we talked earlier? You got to have a really good handling race car, number 1. Get the car handling good so you can drive through all these obstacles. You know what? The wind's going to change around all day long. We can't do a thing about it.
And that's so true. And that's why you have to have a car that has balance on both ends. And it's a compromise. You can never have a perfect race car.
Well, as you continue, there is Scott Dixon. He is second fastest on the charts right now at 219.9 miles an hour. That's what they're all hoping to hold Sunday afternoon. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, if you're just tuning in, the fans here for Carb Day, the annual tradition. And right now, Sam Hornish Jr., the fastest in this final practice session. He's up over 220 miles an hour. Scott Dixon is number 2 at 219. And right behind him, his teammate, also at 219, Dan Weldon. And that is Dan Weldon you're taking a look at right there.
I always loved Carb Day because it gave you the opportunity to get in the car one last time just before the race to sort of maybe answer some questions of some unknown things that you have throughout the week. All these guys and girl will be doing much the same thing, and you want to make sure that you have every question answered before you put the car away today, but you have to be cognizant of not putting too many miles on the motor or using up too many sets of tires. And with the heat, I think it's important to note that because the heat coming up on Sunday, being as hot as it will be, they'll be trying to replace tires in the race cars just about every pit stop that they can.
This is as racy as I've seen these guys, Scott. They're pretty dicey out there right now. I think they're starting to build confidence. You know, when they first started, they were a little timid. They're worried about their cars, so it's not messing anything up. But now I see them really dicing around and getting real aggressive like they would on race day. Now, as you see him pitting right now, he's got to be real careful. These are some of the first times you've seen Weldon and these guys pit like they're pitting right now. Very easy to spin the car out if you got too much rear brake, things like that.
So there is Weldon. Remember, the speed limit in pit lane is 60 miles an hour, and it is a severe penalty if you speed. There's his fastest lap today, and he has run 19. Let's call this stop, see how they go. Jerry?
These will be critical on race day. Remember, they've got to get on and off pit road in about 10.5 to 11 seconds. Now, they're not going to leave here. What they wanted to do with this pit stop was make sure Dan knew exactly where to stop the car, so all the hoses would be perfect as far as being able to get to the right front and right rear. Now they're going to take the cover off and take a look at some of the electronics in the back of the car. Right now, from what I'm hearing radio-wise, most of the Ganassi cars very pleased with what they're feeling on the racetrack. Let's check in with Jack.
Well, Jerry, Scott Sharp has brought his Delphi car down on the pit road, and they like what they see with the performance of this race car. Currently posted about 6th in this final section. And you fellas upstairs were talking about some of the guesswork that may come into the changing temperatures throughout the course of Sunday. I'm with Tom Anderson, and Tom, we were talking before I joined you here on the air about the importance of simulation to help you determine what you're going to do. Tell me a little bit about how you simulate what you're going to see on Sunday.
Well, between the numbers that we gained over the course of the month, plus numbers that we have from last year, plus the numbers that you get from the wind tunnel. So all this data goes into a computer program, and then you should be able to simulate the new conditions, plug that in, and that should be able to give you the formula for where you need to be on your downforce level.
But how much of a challenge is it this time around with a new Honda power plant detuned a little bit, different Firestone Firehawk tires, and the cold and wet temperatures that we've had leading up to Sunday?
Well, theoretically, the computer program is supposed to take care of all that. We do get a version of the Honda engine power, so that's not a question. So it's really just how well it correlates between the cold and the hot.
Fellas, I think come Sunday you might have to hit the refresh button, though.
All right, thanks, Jack. You know, out on the racetrack, we've been keeping an eye on Helio Castroneves, and there is Sam Hornish. I think they're trying to run lockstep here. But Helio is the 13th fastest speed right now, which to me is surprising, 217.8.
Well, speed's not a big deal to me right now, Marty. We're focusing a lot on speed. It's all about handling. These guys are maneuvering around. They might get out of throttle to pass somebody, and you really don't see the big numbers. We're accustomed to see them when they're out there running in qualifying trim or single car practice. A lot of maneuvering going on right now is affecting these speeds.
Well, I guess my question, Scott, is this a signal, though, that maybe he doesn't have the handle on this car?
Well, I think what he's doing right there is he was actually starting to run in traffic a little bit, trying to get an understanding of what his car is doing. Remember, he might have a lot more downforce on this car right now, getting some reading out of the car about where that downforce level is. They might come in and actually be running a different program than Hornish, for instance. They might come in and actually start to take some downforce off the car. And maybe, there again, as the captain always does, maybe there's two different programs going on here. What Sam Hornish is working on one program, Helio's working on another. That's the advantage of having two cars out there, two great engineering teams, and two drivers that understand the program. And they'll go back and get with their engineers tonight, and maybe they're not so much worried about speed as gaining information on this very short 1 hour warm-up.
You know, one thing I want to see, Scott, I've yet to see him run like a 15-lap run. I like to see him make a 15-lap run, and let's look at the times and see who's really got the fast car. Again, we're paying attention to the single fastest lap. This race is going to be won by a good handling car in a long run. And when I see these guys finally able to make these longer runs, it's an indication to me they got their cars handled where they want them. So we'll see if it stays. Let's make that run. I haven't seen hardly anybody doing that yet.
I think that's what these guys have hooked up for right now, because now they seem to be in tandem. They've both got 7 and 9 laps on themselves, respectively, between Hornish and Castroneves. So maybe that's what they're up to now.
And here is Danica Patrick on the warm-up lane, as right now she is in the number 11 position. Her fastest lap is 218 miles an hour. Jerry, you've got more on Danica?
Exactly, guys. We talked about the history she made here a year ago by leading 19 laps, becoming the first woman ever to lead the Indianapolis 500. And she'd like to make history this year by becoming the first woman to win it. Now, what about today? They're working on some rear wing settings, and basically what they're looking at, guys, is a minus or -1 degree rear wing when they began this day. They're going to possibly be able to go to a 0 degree, which is an even rear plane on that rear wing throughout the day, but they're thinking that they're going to have to make a change for race day to +1 degree. And if you're wondering how big a difference that is, the drivers upstairs can tell you in just a moment. But in order to do that, now remember, Danica's rear wing is not adjustable. They are having uprights built as we speak that they will have shipped here tomorrow, and they will be able to put on race morning, which will allow that wing to go to +1. You want more downforce the harder the track is, and right now she has a much less downforce. They want her to get accustomed to feeling the car slip and slide, trying to get her ready for what could happen on a very hot and slippery Sunday afternoon.
All right, thanks for the update, Doc. As you can see, Danica right now 217, 219 down the front straightaway, and she continues to pick up. And the caution flag is out, so everybody will be backing out of the throttle. We have not heard anything other than it will be a track inspection, so no contact with the wall. That is good news, as there is the starter's tower. Stay with us. We still got a lot more coming your way. There's Al Unser Jr. 30 minutes of practice left, plus the Indy Pro Series race and the pit stop competition. We're under yellow here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the annual Carb Day, as we've had about a half hour of practice so far. Let's show you the top speeds so far. Sam Hornish Jr. turned in the fastest lap at 220 and change. That's about 8 miles an hour under his pole setting speed. That's what you would expect. Looking on down through, look at Marco Andretti in the number 5 spot. Tony Kanaan, his teammate, right behind him. There's Thomas Scheckter, Ed Carpenter with the 9th fastest, and Vitor Meira rounding out the top 10. Let's check in now with Jack Arute.
Well, you guys were wondering about the condition of whether Helio Castroneves liked his race car or not. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, it's getting comfortable right now without a lot of traffic. It's difficult to decide, how much downforce you want to run on race day and what gear you want to run.
When we were talking about simulations a little bit ago with another team, and how important the computer is, but how important is it to just have a gut instinct and be able to make the right choices?
Nothing makes up for experience, that's for sure. And we have a lot of experience here, but every day is a different day on race day. So you try and make the right decisions and then adjust the car as the day goes on.
Fellas, one thing I should point out, while everybody had a little bit of a day off a couple of days ago and left Gasoline Alley early, his team and Sam Hornish's team practiced, by my count, 50 simulated pit stops in the noonday sun. So these guys do pay attention to detail.
All right, thanks, Jack. As you can tell by the top of the screen, you're seeing they had the grid. Now you have today's practice times. As let's check in now with Vince Welch.
Thanks, guys. Al Unser Jr. still trying to find a happy medium with his race car. Was not happy on that last run. In fact, he's just over 213, and that's 7 miles per hour slower than the fast speed of Sam Hornish Jr. As we talked about early in the program, these guys aren't necessarily worried about the speed, but because they know they're not going to be as quick as Hornish and Castroneves, etc. But they've got to have a comfortable race car, and right now, Al Jr. says the back end is not happy. It feels really loose in turn 1, and guys, that's not a good feeling at all.
Al Unser Jr., a 2-time winner here at the Indianapolis 500. A lot of success with the Unser family. Now the Andrettis, they haven't won nearly as many as the Unsers. In fact, just 1 time for Mario. Of course, that was back in 1969. Michael 0 for 14, as that's the dream he is chasing. Let's check in with Jamie. I think she's with Mario.
That's right. Mario Andretti won here in 1969. He has a son and now his grandson racing. And Mario, standing here watching your grandson, who so far on the day, he's 5th quickest. What kind of advice are you giving him this month?
Not very much. I don't think he needs too much coaching at all, and I'm not a coach either. So I think he has a great support system within the team, and he's working very well with the engineer, and he's growing with it day by day. So I think his learning curve has been great, progress every time out. And right now he just seems to know what he wants with the car, which is all important. So final tuning is what we're seeing right now, and predicting potentially what to expect in the race, which is always a bit dicey. I think they all will have a little bit of a surprise, mainly because I think it's going to be hotter than they've been experiencing. But nevertheless, like I said, he's in a pretty comfortable situation right now, and I hope it translates in the race.
I have to ask you, what makes you a little more nervous, seeing your son Michael get back in the car and return to Indy, or having your grandson here for the first time?
Oh, it's a little bit of both, but obviously a little more concerned for Marco because, again, he has not experienced any of this, and the race is about to unfold. So, it's a natural concern, obviously, but he just seems to have that quiet confidence that I keep saying that puts my heart at ease pretty much as can be anyway. And Michael, I have all the confidence that he is in control of the situation himself.
Number 8.
He's right in his zone again, and I feel good for him as well. So, again, but I'll be chewing on my fingernails plenty.
On Sunday, perfect case scenario, who's going to cross the checkered flag first?
Well, my wish list would be Michael first and Marco second.
There you have it. He has a son and a grandson, and he'll be standing here nervous and cheering him on. Marty.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Still under a yellow, but we're hoping that will be changing quickly as we head down the road here. This place creates special memories. The drivers in this year's race, no different.
The first memory that I can really think of was, the year that Danny spun and won.
Danny Sullivan, losing control of the car. The incredible move maybe ever in Indianapolis.
My very first one when I won Rookie of the Year, because that was an award you only have a shot at winning once. My dad won the award, and then I was able to win it. That was very special.
I would have to say the lap after the checkered flag coming in was probably the most enjoyable 2 minutes that I've had in a race car.
Saluting the crowd, Eddie Cheever has won the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
In Brazil, obviously Indy started when Emerson Fittipaldi came here, and he won in 1989. And again, obviously Rick Mears in that time, again, is still like the man to beat. It was really nice to see them racing together side by side.
I also think of Michael sitting on my car as I was being pushed into victory lane, because Michael's never emotional, and you could see him kind of getting choked up, and that made me the same way.
Back here at the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis, and you're looking at the top of the Borg-Warner Trophy, what every racer here cherishes come Sunday. We are still under yellow. A couple of days ago, though, we can show you the celebration of Disneyland's 50th anniversary and the 90th running of the Indy 500. Now, this is the Mini Indy charity race, and there's Minnie waving the green flag. It was run on Wednesday during Community Day here at the Speedway. Each driver, accompanied by 4th grade students from Indiana schools, made their way through an obstacle course at top speeds of a blistering 10 miles an hour. The winning driver, Arie Luyendyk Jr., he won $25,000, which he donated to the Lance Armstrong Foundation. Now, each driver won an additional $1,000 for their favorite charity of their choice. The winning student who got to stand on the victory podium, his name is Jimmy Balker. He won an all-expense-paid vacation to Disneyland.
Won this fantastic Mini Indy charity race. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to Disneyland!
Way to go, Jimmy. Good job. All right, back here you can see cars going back out onto the track. We have just gone back to green flag racing, and there is Arie Luyendyk Jr. I think he's going a little faster than 10 miles an hour now. Vince, you got more on Arie?
Arie Luyendyk Jr. is a graduate of the Indy Pro Series. He's not run an IndyCar race before. Tried to qualify for the 500 a year ago, but fell short just at the end of bump day. he expressed two major concerns to me before coming out today. Traffic, running in traffic, and doing pit stops. He's never run in a race with as much traffic as he'll see on Sunday, and he's never done live pit stops. So those are two things that he was hoping to at least get his feet wet with today.
And two-time 500 champion and dad, Ari Sr., in the pit box, calling the shots as Ari continues. He is 27th quickest, but we really didn't expect him to be at the top of the speed chart.
You know, I spoke to those guys the other day, and even his dad, he just said, you know something, I think I'm more nervous for him being here than when I was here, but the whole goal was just to get him through the process again and get him qualified for the race and get him to start the race, because we didn't have much luck last year. As you see, his red number 61 car that he's aboard this year, and the focus for that team is just to get him as many miles as possible. Hopefully he finishes 500 miles so he can at least get this one underneath his belt.
All about experience right now. Just gaining all the seat time you possibly can for this young fellow. You know, he spun in practice earlier in the month, kind of shook himself up a little bit. He even mentioned to his father, he said, I hate this place, Dad. I don't like it. I don't like it. He said, well, you better learn to like it if you're going to get out here and run, son. So he has to learn to like. It's a fast racetrack with a very unique shape.
And I'll tell you something right now, watching his car, he needs to get himself off the racetrack. He's not happy with his car. They just come out after making a change. He's getting up to speed so slow. He's actually in the lane that everybody else is going fast in. You see he's on the top side of the racetrack, so he either needs to pick up the speed or the officials will be calling him in, telling him he's actually a bit of a hazard on the track because he's not up to speed fast enough.
As he continues to make it around the track. His last lap was 179 miles an hour, and you're right, that's not going to make it anywhere.
You see, that's the experience you're talking about, Rusty. The experience to know the car's not right. I think I need to come in, get off the racetrack, and get the thing changed before something gives him a problem. You can see his dad watching on, and I'm sure it's a very nervous time. He certainly knows what speed the car is going, and now you see top speed getting up to somewhere just around 200 miles an hour, but way off the throttle. So that means he's not happy with the car in the turn, so he needs to get in here quickly and change the car around because the hour practice session is running out.
Well, and speaking of time running out, Lyondike has run 14 laps. I'm looking at the chart, and Eddie Cheever Jr. has only run 1 lap. Jamie, what's going on in the Cheever camp?
There, and every time he throttled down, the sensor light would come on and it would cut the engine out. So he was getting no time. So you see the guys that can translate working on the car, trying to get back out there and get some laps under their belt. Like you said, time is running out, but he's back behind the wheel. They're going to go out and see if they made the change.
Well, that's why we have Carb Day. That's what it was all originally for, was your last chance to practice to shake out all the cobwebs, and obviously they've got one that they better find fast. Let's take a look at Al Unser Jr. He has run 17 laps today, and right now, Al Jr., as we pointed out earlier, he's 22nd fastest on the speed chart.
He's 2:14 and some change right now, 22nd fastest on a speed chart, but it's all about handling like we talked earlier. Now, evidently he's not happy with it right now, Marty. He keeps coming and making several changes, but you got to remember, this is their last practice. They've got to get it right now, and if they don't get it right now, they have to have at least some great information to go back to the truck and talk about it.
Well, the other thing you always have to remember is if you miss the setup, you obviously have 7 to 8 pit stops to try and find it, but if you don't have the speed early in the race, you go a lap down, then you're in trouble. Vince, you got more on Al Jr.?
Well, guys, as we've talked about with the speed issue with this Dreyer and Reinbold team, that's why the handling is all the more important, and they had been fairly pleased with the handling up until this point, but he does not have a comfortable race car right now, and that is one of the major concerns that they have, knowing that they're not going to have the speed to compete. They've got to have a car that he can race with, and if that's not going to be the case, it's going to be a very long day on Sunday for the two-time winner. Although I will say this, the team has said Al Jr.'s attitude has just been perfect throughout the course of the month. He has been an incredibly easy driver to work with and has been very patient with this team that doesn't have the engineering capabilities of some of the big price teams.
And as you finish up, Vince, we're on his teammate, Buddy Lazier, and Buddy continues to motor around the speedway. He is 16th fastest. He steps down on the low side. Looks like Scott Sharp going on the high side around Michael Andretti as they both head towards turn 3. He'll make the pass cleanly on the outside. Sharp has moved up to number 2 on the speed chart today. There it is, 220 and change.
Well, you know, we've talked all month long about Scott Sharp. My buddy Scott here in the booth has been a big fan of his, the way his car's been handling, picked him to be one of the favorites for this year's 90th running of the Indy 500. And Scott Sharp, every time we talk to him, guys, he's got a lot of confidence inside of him. So number 2 on the board right now, you got to be running good to do that.
So Sharp pulls into the pits. They'll take one more look at it. Time is running down on this final practice session here at Carb Day. And coming up, the Indy Pro Series race immediately following. Memorial Day weekend means the greatest spectacle in racing. Join us here at the legendary Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 telecast, presented by Capital One. You'll see it all Sunday, May 28th, noon on ABC TV. Back here at the Speedway, speaking of winners, the 04 winner is with Jerry.
And we have not seen Buddy Rice smile this much since you and I talked in Victory Lane here in 2004. The car must be pretty good. How good is it?
Yeah, we got a good race car right now. We're out there running in the beginning in a big pack. I mean, we've been real happy. I mean, like I said, we didn't do much on qualifying, and we've been working real hard on the race setup. I think we got a good car right now. I hope it gets a little bit hotter. It might be good for us.
When you climbed out of the car a moment ago, you were 4th quickest. Is there something left in terms of race day setup? Do you have the speed you need?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're at race pace. Right now, exactly what we think. It's going to get hot, and our car's good. If we can run speeds like that, like this, I'm hoping that we'll be pretty strong come Sunday.
You start 15th. What's the key early on here in the Indy 500?
It's going to be patience. I need to get through this first stinters too, see where the track's at and the weather, and we'll start going from there. There's no reason to panic. I got a real good pit crew. They're going to give me some spots in pit lane, and we'll just keep chipping away at it. We'll be there hopefully at the end.
Hey, good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Have not seen Buddy smile that much, guys, since in 2 years here. And remember, last year's winner, Dan Weldon, started 16th, and Buddy Rice watched the film of last year's race and saw how patient Dan was in traffic and where Dan ended up when the day was over.
And if you take a look at the top 7 speeds, all of them within 1 mile an hour, this is shaping up to look like a very good Sunday.
This is going to be a shootout. I'll tell you, Marty, we're not talking enough about Buddy Rice. He's won this race. He knows how to win it, and he's talking about good his car's handling. Handling's so important. I love what I'm hearing out of him. A lot of confidence. This cat's going to sleep good tonight.
Felipe Giafoni, you see his telemetry right there as he continues around the race course. He is 29th fastest. They're still looking for speed. They're way down at 211. That's not going to make A.J. Foyt very happy.
Well, he also had a little bit of a wiggle coming off of turn 1 that last time through, so he's probably trying to hold the car down on the racetrack, and the back end's just giving him a little bit of a wiggle, as we call it. It starts to walk itself around, so we'll have to see if they just made some changes and he gets himself more comfortable with the car. But top speed's a big indicator here, guys. Have you seen the 221, 222 as he is top speed with a downforce on the car and going through the turns as low as he is right now on the speed indicator? That's where you're just going to end up seeing an average of 214, 215 range.
Well, we talked about driving for A.J. Foyt. Let's talk to the man who is driving for him. See what he thinks about driving for the legend.
He's a tough guy. Everybody knows that. And he knows what he wants, and sometimes he'll get very frustrated, you know, with me, with the team, or with anybody. But that's just because he wanna do well.
He certainly does want to do well. Right now down this front straightaway. His speed in the straightaway up to 223, 224 just for a moment. But then, boy, it really drops off in the corner.
And that's the problem. When the car's not working very well, that's when you end up in a situation where the car's scrubbing off speed throughout the turn, and that means he's probably not got mechanical grip, which will only amplify it when you start to get behind the cars on the racetrack. If you don't have mechanical grip by yourself, you're not going to have it when the cars in front of you are taking away the air over the wings, and that's going to make for a long, long day.
And as he concludes this run, I mean, we are running out of time. About 10 minutes left. The 4-time Indianapolis 500 champion. There he is, A.J. Foyt, in front of son Larry's car. A look at part of the crowd here on Carb Day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Time is running out on the final practice session. Still to come, the Indy Pro Series race, as well as the annual pit stop competition. So we've got a lot coming your way. Here are the top 10 in practice speeds. And take a look at numbers 8 and 10. Vision Racing, Thomas Schechter, and Ed Carpenter. In fact, their third car is 13th. And they're all chasing Sam Hornish. Let's talk about Tony Kanaan. He's with Jerry Punch.
Well, guys, if you're in the numerology, Tony Kanaan starts 5th on Sunday. It's your 5th Indy 500, and right now your 5th quickest in practice. How good is the car?
I'm happy. I'm pretty happy. We did some runs with Marco, trying to simulate a race pace, and I think if we haven't figured out by now, we won't figure out anymore. So we're ready to go.
In commercial a moment ago, I saw you sitting on the wall here with Marco Andretti, and you were using your hands and going back and forth. What were you trying to teach him or show him about what's going to happen on the racetrack?
Well, obviously it's his first time on a carburation day, and he probably can get carried by not having as a good car as he thought he was going to be. He was going to have today. So we made a couple changes that we went back to the car that we talked about it. So I told him not to carry over, you know, to get this illusion that his car is terrible, and then just to do the couple changes that I did, and he's going to be just fine. The kid's going to surprise a lot of people in this race.
All right, when he says that Marco's going to be good, you got to believe he knows what he's talking about. Let's head up pit road to Jamie Little.
Well, I'm with Marco Andretti, so let's ask him. They were just talking to Tony Kanaan. Dr. Punch said, you are actually going to surprise a lot of people. Actually, Tony said that. You guys were out there running together. What are you feeling inside your car?
I'm feeling that we made some changes and sort of went backwards, because I think we started out pretty decent, maybe a little skimpy on downforce, but I think, I really think, the NYSE car has a legit shot at winning this race.
Well, you're out of the car now. You're not going to get back in until the morning of the Indianapolis 500. How are you feeling about your chances?
Well, I really am feeling pretty good. I really don't think you should count me out of this race. I think, we just put a little downforce in and get the thing comfortable and go race it, because I really think it's a really good car right now. So, potential winner.
Potential winner. You heard it here first. He's qualifying 9th. He did qualify 9th. Right now, he's sitting 7th quickest. Jack?
Well, Jamie, you remember early on in the month I predicted that this man, Scott Sharp, would end up in victory lane, but I did reserve the right to rebracket. Forget about it. I'm going with the guy from Connecticut. How close is this Delphi car to being a winning entry in the Indy 500?
Well, I'm real happy, Jack. We worked awfully hard this month on our race setup. Probably a 1/20th of our time we actually spent on qualifying. So to be where we are, and the guys made some subtle changes. There's new conditions for everybody, and the car feels really good.
How can you help someone that's never driven one of these cars understand where the comfort level is for one of these Indy cars? Can you come up with a perfect analogy for it?
Well, it's a little bit of a guess for all of us also, because what happens is when you don't have a lot of downforce in the car and you catch a pack of cars, the car just slides all over the track. You lose all that efficient air coming to your wings. The car will just slide across the track. You've got to add downforce to get the car comfortable behind other cars, but you can also get to the point where you're so good behind cars that if you're ever out on your own, you're too slow. So it's a real balance.
The balance is the key, but it's 800 left-hand turns come Sunday. Vince?
Well, Al Jr., we were just talking or hearing from Jack Arute, visiting and talking about balance being the key today, but I know you were struggling with yours a little bit. Where were the issues?
Yeah, we were struggling a little bit with the balance on the A1 Team USA Geico Special, but we never really did find it. Now we're out of time, and we ran into the limit on our miles, on our engine, and so on. So. We're just going to have to go back to the garage now and, figure out why I was so loose today.
What kind of concerns does that leave you with for Sunday?
Well, it's a pretty good concern. I mean, if anything, you want some understeer in the car or some push. And right now, I'm loose, and we helped it, but we didn't cure it by any means, and so. We need to go find out why.
Some struggles for the two-time winner.
All right, let's talk about the limit that he was talking about on his motors. You continue to see Jacques Lazier. As a second-week qualifier, the engine program allowed them was 1,200 miles, which means you've got to save 500 for the race.
And the thing you have to remember is that 500 miles, but if you don't want to just go right up to the 500-mile marker when the engine is worn out, you want to leave yourself a little bit of space there. I feel everybody's going to have not a problem with the 1,200 miles that they have in the Honda engines. They are so strong last year. They're reliable. I don't think that's going to be an issue. The issue I see with Unser Jr., though, is that because of the heat conditions that we're going to have on Sunday on race day, you know, Rusty, if you've got a car that's not working, you get to a racetrack that's now got hotter, and it just sort of amplifies the problem that you have. And a loose race car, meaning the back end wants to swing around on you going around in through the turns, is bad, number one, but even worse when you're further back in the pack and you've got all that dirty air from all the cars in front of you on the start.
I got to tell you, Scott, this engine limit on miles, I hate that rule. I don't like that rule at all. Here's a guy that doesn't have his car handling right, but he's got to stop because he thinks he might have too many miles on the engine. Dude, if my car's not handling right, I want all the practice I can get. I'm going to take my chances it's going to blow or not blow. I don't want to start this race with no confidence, with the car's not handling, because somebody told me, oh, you have too many miles on your engine. You know, I'm not a big believer in that.
We've got about 2 minutes left in this practice session. General impressions of what we've seen so far. Anybody that really jumps out at you or disappoints you?
Well, I think the thing that I've talked about all month, and Rusty, you mentioned it, Sharp has been going along his workload here all throughout the month, running in traffic, and I think that he just stands out again here. We know that Hornish is quick. Both those guys have had problems making it to the end, have not had the finishes here that they've wanted before. The target cars beating third and fourth, they're very strong, and maybe the surprise, but we talked about it a little bit, maybe it's Castroneves, not maybe up there in the speed chart, but I did say before, maybe they did split the workload into different areas on both those cars between Hornish and Castroneves, Rusty.
You know, being a driver in the past, when a microphone comes up to me and says, hey, how's your car? I'm not going to say my car's horrible. I don't want my sponsors and everybody to be upset with me. So when I hear a driver say, my car's good, but when I hear a driver say, my car's really good, that's what I like. And I heard Scott Sharp say, my car's really good. That's a pretty good indication. Another guy that's really good is Scott Dixon. This guy doesn't talk a lot. He kind of flies under the radar screen a lot. Doesn't get a lot of attention because that's his personality. But I think he's really good too.
And another guy you might put in that whole same category is Buddy Rice. Very quiet.
Absolutely.
And he's obviously got a smile on his face.
Buddy, the 6th fastest today so far. One guy who may not be happy is right there, Michael Andretti. He is in the number 16 spot as far as speed today, looking for a little bit more grunt. And we're almost out of time. We should update you on Eddie Cheever. He did get back out, but he is only 30th fastest. His fastest lap, 2:13. So there's a former champion that has issues as well. So there you see the telemetry on Michael's car. This could be the final lap. If not, it would be the next to last for sure. In fact, yep, the checker flag is in the hands, and here it is. So the final practice session is over, and that's what Michael wants to see Sunday. He wants to be the first one across the line with the checkered flag, but he's going to have to find some more grunt. He is the 16th fastest, as we pointed out, but the race sometimes comes to those who are patient. We have far from being over. We'll talk to some of these drivers. We'll also have the Indy Pro Series race when we come back to Indianapolis. The final practice for this year's running of the Indianapolis 500 is over. These guys will not see the racetrack again until Sunday. As we take a look at the speed chart here, show you the top 10. Scott, let me ask you first, then Rusty. Anybody jump out at you, either good or bad, in the top 10?
Well, the top 5 are the same suspects we've seen up there, I guess, all month. But number 6, I guess, has to be a surprise, Buddy Rice. And number 7, Marco Andretti. I keep saying I don't think he's going to make it to the end, but this kid keeps surprising me. So maybe there'll be a surprise on race day for us.
Well, the thing I see, I talked about how I'm not big on miles per hour, but the top 10, they look the best on the racetrack in the long runs and the way they're maneuvering. Honestly, Sam Hornish, we know he's fast. Scott Sharp, he's really happy. Dixon, I think he's really, really good too.
All right, let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, let's find out if this guy's happy. Helio Castroneves, your teammate, is the quickest in this practice, and you seem to be just not necessarily behind the curve a little bit, but you spend a lot of time with your engineer debriefing. What are the challenges that you're facing between now and Sunday to get this car ready to win your third?
Well, we seem to have a problem on the rear wing. It was moving up, so actually it was adding downforce, and all of a sudden we're going backwards. It's slow, and the car is making an adjustment. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to go for it again because of the mileage and engine. Everybody's trying to have like 25 laps. So it was a problem. Hopefully
When you say you had a problem with the rear wing, was it actually self-adjusting up?
It was moving up in a way that we did not expect, and then causing the car to make something that you don't expect. So basically, you're wasting the 20 laps that you had. Like, what happened? You know, where's the speed went? And that's why it's kind of frustrating. But we feel confident that the problem is it's definitely going to be solved. Hey, this race, I still had a lot of problems in the past, and we end up like winning the race. So I'm going to go with my guts.
Rusty, you know this is not the way you want to end your last practice session when you're going for the win, but we'll have to track on race day. Remember, this is the team that originated that adjustable wing on the rear with a little gear-driven drive. They're going to be back in the garage checking that apparatus out, I can guarantee you.
You know, Jack, with the pressure on the rear wing, I could understand the wing going down, Scott, but how could it adjust itself up with all that downforce being pressed on that wing? I just wonder if they actually got on the racetrack with the wrong wing setting, then caught themselves out there. What do you think?
Well, usually you're correct. Usually the wing will actually start self-adjusting itself down, so that's very odd. But then again, they do have a different system on there than everybody else. But the point about the whole thing is I'd rather have it go up and give you more downforce, because if it gave you less, the back end's going to come out from underneath you, and he'd be against the wall right now.
All right, let's take a look at our practice speeds in positions 11 through 20. As we take a look, you'll see Danica Patrick moved up to the number 12 spot, 218, where I talked about Buddy Rice in the number 6 position. There's Michael Andretti. Stefan Gregoire rounds out the top 20. You know, Danica's car owner celebrating his 20th anniversary. Remember the date? Because it was Bobby Rahal with 2 laps remaining, getting around on the restart over Kevin Kogan and taking the win, as his late team owner, Jim Truman, who would pass away just 11 days after victory in the race that was delayed 1 full week by rain. Let's talk to him. He's with Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Marty. It's hard to believe that it was 20 years ago, Bobby, that you won here on that emotional afternoon where Jim Truman celebrated that victory. But it just seems like yesterday.
I don't know about that, but certainly some of the memories seem like yesterday. Absolutely.
You know, when you talk about what could happen this year, we just saw a moment ago Buddy Rice as happy and as much of a smile as I've seen on his face in a long time. He's real good. How about you're down here in the Danica pits? How was Danica Patrick in that session?
Oh, she was, early on, quite quick, right there with Buddy. She ended up 12th, but that's because a lot of people, we were in making some changes. A lot of people were just towing each other around to get those speeds. But I think both of them are extremely happy with the cars. And, it's going to be a little bit of a guess come Sunday because of the weather. But so far, I think we feel pretty good.
What is the biggest difference between the Danica Patrick you talked to on race morning a year ago and the one that's going to run the Indy 500 here this year on Sunday?
Well, I guess light years in terms of experience. A year ago, no experience, especially at this race. A year later, a number of races under her belt, a lot more confidence with the nature of a race, how it changes, how the car changes over the course of the race. Those were things she did not know a year ago. Now she has a good handle on that. I think it's just a whole different person, and I think she's going to be a much stronger player in the race as a result.
Hey, Bobby, good luck to all 3 of your teams on Sunday, and happy 20th anniversary on that Indy 500 victory.
Thanks, Jerry.
Bobby Rahal. Jamie?
Well, Doc, Eddie Cheever, as we reported earlier, having issues in this last session before the 500. Eddie only got 17 laps out there. How is the car coming together? How are you feeling about your race setup at this time?
We had a problem with one of the throttle sensors that kept sending a signal that the throttle was stuck open, and the electronics in these cars are function in such a manner that if that happens, it cuts the engine off. So that cost us a lot of time on the track. I ran a lot by myself. I think the car's a little bit slow. We've got to go back and try to refigure things out. But if the step that we had from testing before to today is going to be the same again for the race, it's going to be very interesting.
Well, good news is Eddie Cheever has a second car, and Max Pappas, he can hopefully follow his lead.
Forget about my car.
Oh, yeah, your car, too. Oh, yeah, it's your car, too. Vince?
Well, it was 10 years ago this year that Buddy Lazier drove his car to victory lane here at Indianapolis. He was in that car with a broken back from injuries suffered in a race at Phoenix, and he hobbled from the race car after that glorious day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he was 5th here last year. Thought he had a car that could have won it a year ago. Now in this practice session, 17th, but you're telling me you're a lot better than that speed indicates. What leads you to believe that?
Well, we were in the draft and we were able to run with Dixon and Sharp, and we were gaining on them and they peeled off. So we just didn't get we literally ran our laps on our own. Our car's really good. I think we could have run top 5 just now. So, you know, we've very, very happy to have Owen Snyder in my pits, and you know, we just made we really worked hard this month, but now we're ready for race day.
So you believe that you're going to be in the mix on race day, despite what the speed chart tells us today?
Absolutely. Again, I mean, that's most of those speeds are in dirty air. We just didn't get one in, but yeah, I've got a very good race car, and you know, we got a shot.
Everybody up and down pit lane will tell you when it comes to scrapping, Buddy Lazier will be right there, guys.
Well, he's got his face on the Borg Warner, and it's the only one of its kind. The winners put into perspective what it means to have their likeness on the Borg Warner Trophy at Indy.
After winning it, you realize that that trophy will be there long after you are gone. So it's a part of history. My grandchildren can come back and point to the guy with the big nose and say, that's our great-grandfather.
It does look like, except that it looks like I'm 220 miles an hour without helmet, but I don't care. As long as my face is there, it's fine.
It's really weird to sit there and think that your face is on a trophy, and there's people that have it on there multiple times. It's a little weird to think the biggest race there is, you're on their trophy for a lifetime.
My name is on that Borg Warner trophy, and there's a likeness of me, and that's.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, final practice for Sunday's big event is over, but we're getting ready for the Freedom 100. There are the cars already out on the starting grid. More on that in a moment. But first off, let's talk about what's coming up tomorrow on ESPN2. 2 hours celebrating Sunday's 90th running of the Indy 500. First at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's the Indianapolis 500 Festival Parade. Then at 7:30, it's Ready to Race with Sam Hornish, Dan Weldon, Danica Patrick, among others. It's all tomorrow night right here on ESPN2. Let's get a preview of the Freedom 100. Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Marty. These Indy Pro Series cars are the brainchild of Tony George. Now, 5 years ago, Tony said, we got to have a stepping stone series to develop the future IndyCar stars, drivers, and owners of tomorrow. So he developed this series. Less horsepower, much less expensive, but up-and-coming, talented young drivers like today's pole sitter here, Wade Cunningham, who's also the defending series champion. And Wade, congratulations on the pole at Indianapolis. What's it going to take to stay there today?
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to stay there all day, Doc. I think it's really going to come down to just timing the passes and being there at the end. Obviously, that's a bit of a cliche, but that's what you have to do.
Where do you pass here when you got to make the move on the final couple laps? Where should that move come?
Wherever it can come. If you got to force it, you got to. But the straights are so long that the draft is very effective, so I think it'll be quite easy to go for the lead later on in the race.
Hey, good luck today.
Thanks a lot.
Wade Cunningham, 21 years of age. He's last year's champion. And in fact, the top 8 drivers in the series point standings came back to run this series because they realized that this is a great way to step into IndyCar Series racing. Remember, 6 of these graduates are in Sunday's Indianapolis 500.
Thanks, Doc. You know, at age 21, you can cut your hair like Wade Cunningham. When you're my age, you're just lucky to have hair. We're going to have the start of the Freedom 100.
It's the biggest IndyCar Series event of the year, the Indianapolis 500. Some legendary families are back. Unser Jr. takes on father and son Michael and Marco Andretti. The Indy 500, Sunday noon Eastern on ABC.
Welcome back to Indianapolis. We're getting ready for the Freedom 100, but take a look at this. Dan Weldon has not seen this yet. This is a special helmet designed by JLF out of England. Of course, Dan with Richard the Lionhearted on the back, his country's flag, and then look at the yard of bricks down the center, and here the Borg Warner Trophy over on the left side. That is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. All right, let's talk about what's coming up Memorial Day weekend, because it means the greatest spectacle in racing. Don't forget to join us here at the Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Capital One. You'll see it all Sunday, May 28th, noon on ABC TV. We're getting ready now for the Indy Pro Series race. As you can see, we've got about a lap and a half to the green. That's Bobby Wilson with our one onboard camera. He had a problem just a moment ago. That's why he's bolting up to his starting position. In fact, here it was as he was back
And a report that he actually spun the car out on the warm-up.
Oh, and that's going to flat spot the tires?
Boy, that's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing.
All right, let's take a look at our Klein Tools starting grid, and we'll show you. And you already talked and met Wade Cunningham, the 21-year out of Auckland, New Zealand. Alongside will be the 25-year-old Jay Howard. He's a rookie in the series. And in row 2, it's Jaime Camara and Chris Festa. Let's get more on Jaime as we continue through the grid. Jerry?
Well, guys, Jaime Camara was the Brazilian driver who won this race a year ago from the pole. He led 4 times for 33 of the 40 laps. He won 2 races a year ago here and at Nashville. He won 3 poles. But the big story for Jaime Camara is now he has become the protege of Tony Kanaan, the 2004 IRL IndyCar Series champion. He'll have Tony Kanaan helping him throughout the afternoon. Tony has talked to him throughout the month of May. Jaime has followed Tony around through IndyCar qualifying and through Carb Day earlier today. So a pretty good guy to have in your box, Tony Kanaan. Jaime Camara going for 2 in a row here in the Freedom 100 in the Indy Pro Series.
All right, Doc, as you continue, as they continue to warm up on the final pace lap. They'll form up in rows of 2, unlike the traditional rows of 3. There's Jaime. And as they get ready for the start, let's take a look at the Lucas Oil key to the race.
One of the most important things here is drafting. This track is longer than any of these tracks these cars ever compete on. 5/8 of a mile straightaway. You have to be perfect coming out of turn 2 and turn 4 to get that run down the back stretch and the front stretch. Restarts also very important, especially if you've only got a couple of laps left to go. Get up through the gearbox. Do not miss a gear because you'll get passed by plenty of people if you don't. And patience, just like the Indy 500, you have to get to the end to have a chance to win this race, and you have to have a situation where you are there for the shootout.
Well, these cars don't have a lot of horsepower, 420 horsepower, about 6,700 RPM, so they got to keep them wound up.
Waiting for the rows to form up. They're coming out of turn number 4, and Wade Cunningham is well out in front. In fact, he's already got the hammer down. And the green flag has not come out yet, so we're going to find out. Yes, they are giving him the green flag. So interesting that Wade Cunningham took advantage and pulls away right at the start.
You know, you have to come down here and just get on the gas smoothly and make a nice smooth transition to the start line. And I got to tell you, he's not going to be a favorite of all his other competitors once you go ahead and do that. But it is a race here at the Indianapolis 500 track, and everybody's watching. You want to win this event more than any other one, Rusty.
Scott, I'm surprised he got away with that, jumping at restart like that, because generally you throw a black flag or they wouldn't have started the race under those conditions.
Take a look at the battle for 4th there right now.
Important now when the car behind gets the run on the car in front to make sure that you get the draft and get an opportunity to pass going down the front. Cunningham is just starting to stretch his lead right now. He has to hit his marks perfectly all the way through. Keep his foot flat on the gas. He's got clean air in front of him. There's obviously no traffic and probably will not run into any traffic here in these short 100 miles that they'll run.
Yeah, this is 40 laps. You don't take a pit stop here. If you pit, you might as well kiss your chances goodbye. So it's Cunningham, followed by Howard, then Jaime Camara in the top 3. Jerry, you've got more?
Guys, you might understand why Wade Cunningham's a little anxious to make that start a moment ago. He started the first race at Homestead Miami Speedway, and then on the eve of his second start of the year in St. Petersburg, Florida, he came down with an acute appendicitis and had to have surgery. He missed both those starts at St. Petersburg, so now last year's champion has only made 1 start here. He needs to win this race and make up some distance in a hurry in the point standings. And oh, by the way, he said the guy he's worried about making the pass early on is Jay Howard, the guy that's closing in now some 4 or 5 car lengths back.
Thanks, Doc. As you tagged it, it's about the gap right now as Cunningham continues down the backstretch. You know, he won the title last year with 10 podium finishes, and only one of those was a win when he won at Fontana.
Scott, these engines are all the same in these cars. They don't turn much RPM, and these guys got to keep them wound up. This reminds me a little bit of the IROC racing I used to be involved in, where these guys, it's all about driver finesse. It's all about keeping the momentum and staying in the draft. You can tell there's a lot of slingshot going to happen in this race today. They're going to catch each other at the very end of the straightaways where most of the action is going to happen.
And watch what's going on now. Everybody's just sort of swapping places. And James Chesson, his brother PJ's in the Indy 500 field. He's actually starting to weave his way throughout the pack also.
Guys, we just got word from IndyCar officials. Phil Giebler, the number 4 car, the rookie for Guthrie Racing, he is going to get a black flag for passing too early on the start. Down the back straightaway, everybody's sort of getting into single file now. Well, just as I say that, let's go 3 wide.
Isn't this a lot of fun for these guys to go down through the turn? Remember, these cars are just almost the same size as the Indy car, so 3 wide will not work going through the turn. But Marty, let me just sort of add on something you just mentioned a moment ago. On the initial start, you cannot pass the car in front of you until you cross the start line. On a restart, as soon as it goes green, you can certainly pass it any time on the racetrack. So that first initial start, wait until the line.
4 laps of 40 completed. Right now, it's Wade Cunningham running in front of Jay Howard and Jaime Camara. That's your top 3 here at the Freedom 100. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this is the Freedom 100, the Indy Pro Series. If you're analogy to baseball, this is AAA. This is one step below the big boys that will be running on Sunday. And right now it is Wade Cunningham and Jay Howard with Jaime Camara. Those are the top 3. You got them all on your screen right there.
Now, we had a report from down below from Doc Punch that the number 1 car of Cunningham is actually starting to have a push. Now, he is out in the lead, so he's by himself, and he's got a push. That means the front's not reacting to the amount of steering he's putting into the car. And if he was to get into traffic, that would be worse. Now, this year they do have a different system on there. They have a front shock on the front that also allows you to go ahead and change the roll bar. They have some adjustments inside the car, new this year, so he'll be working with that inside adjustments to try and get the car just a little bit better.
You heard the name Chesson a little bit earlier. James Chesson running 12th. Well, down in the pits, his brother, PJ, who's going to be running Sunday, is with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And right now, PJ Chesson is James Chesson's biggest cheerleader. When they come by, he's jumping out. Hey, PJ, you're pretty excited about what James has got going on here right now.
Yeah, I'm James' biggest fan. I got to be nice to him. He's my spotter, so I'm so proud of him getting this opportunity to drive in the Pro Series. That was the goal for both of us, to try and get back here. So I clawed my way in and hopefully helped him get his opportunity, and now he's doing it. So look for him to be at the front of this baby here soon.
You won back-to-back races in this series, driving for Mo and Catherine Unn. It's what got you the ride in IndyCar with Ron Himmelgarn and Carmelo Anthony. How important is this series for these guys to be able to get a shot at IndyCar?
It's very important because, believe it or not, all the owners and a lot of the drivers are watching this race, and they get an idea of who can drive and who can't. And it's really important that they're out here, they use their heads, they log every lap, and they work, and they're aggressive, and they know when to go and know when not to go. So I think James is doing a really good job right now, and I just want to see him finish this and be in the game in the end.
Well, let's get back to cheerleading, man. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. Go,
PJ Chesson will start 20th on Sunday. By the way, he finished second to his brother in this series in California 2 years ago. He only won 2 by brothers in the history of Indy Pro Series.
Oh, and he is taking a bonsai attack heading into 3. Can he make it stick? Whoa! He got one spot.
There he guts him move. I mean, a nice run. He got the draft from those 2 cars in front that poked a big hole in the air for him, and ended up making a nice move going into 3 and made it stick right down on the low side. Nice move.
That was Tice Carlson that he went around, and right now he's chasing the man with our onboard camera. That's Bobby Wilson right in front of him, and that is a position for 10th.
You know, Marty, I was talking to these guys. You know, there's 7 IRL teams that are involved with these cars out here. The rest of them are single car operations. That's a lot of information going back and forth from the IRL series cars to these cars. And as you can tell, there's a lot of driver development going on. You know, we reported earlier that Cunningham is reporting a severe push. It doesn't seem to be hurting him much, though.
More action going on further back in the pack. You heard that name, Tice Carlson. Of course, he was a 2-time Indy 500 starter back in 97 and 99. Right now, we go back to the battle up front because the top 2 are trying to pull away from 3rd place. It's Wade Cunningham in front of Jay Howard, and Jaime Camara has fallen about 4 seconds behind 2nd place. Heading down into turn 3, in lockstep, the margin about 0.2 of a second. Jerry, you've got more?
Well, guys, the car that's running second, the white car number 7 of Jay Howard, the Lucas Oil Machine. This young man is very, very impressive. In fact, as you watch him now moving in on Wade Cunningham, a lot of the IndyCar owners are saying he could be the next guy to make a move to IndyCar. Right now, he's making a move to the front of the field in turn 1, and Howard makes it stick. And let me tell you where he came from, guys. A year ago, he ran the Formula Z-Tech Series, and he broke the record in that series for wins in a season. He had 9 wins. The previous record was 6 wins in a year, set by Dan Weldon.
Back here at the Freedom 100 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we've had a great battle going on up front between Wade Cunningham, who has the lead right now in the number 1, followed by the number 7 of Jay Howard. Jaime Camara is in 3rd, and they have checked out on the rest of the field.
Well, this little battle they had for 1st and 2nd allowed Jaime Camara to have an opportunity to start to catch back up. But as long as they stay single file right now, it's going to be difficult for those guys to really get an opportunity to catch up and maybe make a move. Cunningham doing such a great job. If he's going to continue checking out like this and making no mistakes, that's called the perfect run, Rusty. And if he can hit his marks on entry, hit his apex, and hit his exit points, it might be tough for these guys to catch up to him.
Scott, you're exactly right. These cars are all about driver finesse. They don't have any horsepower to speak of. 420 horsepower. They're about 35 miles per hour on top speed off of the IRL cars. I was looking a little while ago, but the one thing I really find amazing, though, they're within 80 pounds of an IRL car, which is this series is a great feeder series for these IRL cars and the developed drivers.
And the thing that I like about it is it goes to all the tracks, a lot of the tracks that the IRL Indy cars run on, and to have the opportunity to come here and race at the Indianapolis 500 track. With all the history that's here, with all the great drivers and finishes that have been at this particular track, to come here in a junior car and train here, that is terrific. It wasn't until just a few years ago this started, and when you came here to run the Indy 500, you never had a chance to run this track in any type of car before here. So as a rookie, when I came here, it was just a major feat. These guys at least get a bit of a taste of what's going on.
That is a great assessment. To be able to come to Indy and win Indy in any type of division of a car, I will tell you, it's awesome. And you got awful close, Scott Goodyear, 2 times, and I mean that in a positive way. In fact, I think one of these things you hadn't won until you had a penalty. But look at this graphic here. 1,460 pounds for an Indy Pro Series car, 1,525 for an Indy car, Scott.
And they both are normally aspirated engines. So the drivers really get an opportunity to feel what it's like with these cars. Now, yes, there's a difference, obviously, in the horsepower, as you can see, and quite a difference there. Now, obviously, different fuel loads, and they run on gasoline versus the ethanol-methanol blend, but a big change in, obviously, the cost also.
Let's get more from Dr. Jerry Punch.
You not only saw how inexpensive it is, if you consider that inexpensive to get into this series and be able to run oval track racing, but the primary reason Tony George wanted to start this series is names like Jeff Gordon or Ryan Newman or Casey Kane. Those are drivers who grew up in the short tracks running midgets and sprint cars and Silver Crown cars, or even Tony Stewart for that matter. And really, in order to get super speedway oval track experience after those short tracks, they had to go run NASCAR, the NASCAR Busch Series or NASCAR Cup. This series here allows young drivers who have run Formula 3000, Formula Ford Z-Tech, or a midget or sprint car driver like Tice Carlson to be able to come here and get oval track experience in an Indy car and then make that next step. This was a much-needed series to be able to help the IRL IndyCar Series, much like the Busch Series does the NASCAR's Nextel Cup.
You mentioned how it's a great feeder system, Doc. It certainly is. The list of graduates out of the Indy Pro Series. And remember, this is only the 4th season for it. Here's Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, who won this race back in 2003 in its inaugural running. T.J. Chesson, you already heard from him. Arie Luyendyk Jr. Thiago Medeiros, who won this race in 2004. And Jeff Simmons, who was running this series until he got the call to move up to Rahal Letterman Racing. So it's doing exactly what AAA baseball does on the major league level.
Marty, that tells a story, doesn't it? Everything you just said, all these guys are in IRL, and this is a wonderful series to start that out.
This is the 49th race since the series started. Take a look at these speeds. I mean, these guys are running some very consistent race laps at 185 and change, and these two have sort of checked out. As in a distant third, there is Jaime Camara. Now let's drop back to the battle. 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's Alex Lloyd, Chris Festa, and then Sean Guthrie.
And Marty, you were talking about speeds, and there you can see the seconds behind the leader for Chris Festa. You know, they're running 185 miles an hour. They qualified at 186, the leaders did. But, Rusty, I got a little bit of trivia here for you. I don't know if you knew this, but the 2005 Nextel Cup pole was 184.1 miles an hour. And these guys around here are going 186.423 for the pole. They go faster than those stock car things that you guys drive around here.
You hit me over the head on that one. But, you know, there's one thing about this style of racing. There's no pit stops allowed during this race. They're not going to have any stops at all.
Yeah, if you stop, you're done. In fact, we just heard that John Herb has pulled into the pits, so that's going to hurt him. He's obviously got a problem. Stay with us. This race is far from its conclusion. We've got battles all over the racetrack. Right now, though, look at Wade Cunningham. He has opened up a bigger lead over Jay Howard. It is over 1 full second. There's your top 5 here at the Freedom 100. Here in Indianapolis, it's the Freedom 100, the Indy Pro Series. As you're looking at our race leader, that is Wade Cunningham. He has opened up a 1.5 second lead over Jay Howard. We have just passed the halfway mark. In fact, we're working lap 23 of 40. There's Jay as he goes through turn 2. And one of the men who have graduated from this series into the IndyCar Series is with Jamie Little.
That's right. Jeff Simmons wasn't planning on graduating early. He was actually planning on running this entire series when he got a call from Bobby Rahal to fill the number 17 ethanol car. And Jeff, what is it like to go from the IndyCar Pro Series to IndyCar? What are some of the adjustments you've had to make in the last month and a half?
Well, the cars are fairly different. Obviously, you're dealing with a lot more speed, and you know, all of your mistakes are amplified, and you know, you really need to stay on top of things, and you got less time to react to everything. So it's just it's more speed and all that. On this track, it's a handling track for both of us, though. So there's a lot of similarities here.
Now tell us about your replacement, Bobby Wilson. We're watching him right now. I don't know if you had a chance to see that warm-up lap when he spun out.
No, I missed that. We were going over the stuff from our warm-up, from our last little run here on Carb Day, and I didn't get to see that, but I'll have to give him a little bit of grief later on.
Yeah, we were talking about this being the feeder series and how the owners of teams in IndyCar watch you guys. Did you find that to be true for you?
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, it was a good run that we had late last year that really helped me to get this ride. Obviously, you know, Paul Dana's passing was the main factor in this becoming available and all that, and that's been difficult. But it was certainly I knew that the guys had an eye on me after I won a lot of races last year.
Well, he has 7 wins, including 1 at Homestead, and he's the current series points leader. But today, that's going to end, and we'll see Jeff Simmons in the 17 car on Sunday. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, Jamie, while you were talking, his driver, Bobby Wilson, was doing a fine job. He got around Jonathan Klein, and Bobby's moved up to 7th place, and then Klein and Guthrie are duking it out. Here comes the 33 car of Jeff Dodge as well.
Now, Jeff Dodge is a story because his motor was going south actually during qualifying. He didn't really get a chance to even get out and practice or run. And here he is wheel to wheel right now. Will they make it through? So he did not post a time in qualifying, but he had to start at the very back, and he's starting to work his way through, guys. A nice, clean work for him.
So he is now up to the 9th position, and so they are running a race record pace. I think another one of our former winners is down the pit lane, Jerry. Or Jack, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, it's a guy that 2 years ago won this race, Thiago Medeiros, signing autographs and getting ready for his appearance in the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500. Thiago, just a couple of years ago, you were out there running, and now you're going to make your first Indy 500 start.
I mean, definitely was a big advantage to be able to race here in the Pro Series, and then you learn everything in this track. And then when you jump to IndyCar, you go to a car that's better grip, better downforce, better tires. I mean, it's a proportional jump, so it's not scared of it. I mean, those cars, I mean, it's a great city, learn everything, and learn how to run side by side with each other and respect your competitors, and that's what IndyCar is all about.
Fellas, let me update you. Remember the last time we visited with the PDM team, the car was just all apart and it had just primer and various things. It's been repainted and rechristened. This car now is called Pots and Pans 2 in tribute to A.J. Watson, who back in 1948 brought a homemade car to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that was dubbed Pots and Pans 1. This is definitely old school here, boys.
Yeah, and I'm sort of disappointed that they, repainted it because, I mean, what a legacy. 12 different cars went into making that chassis work and getting it into the show. I mean, I know the sponsors want it to look nice, but I thought the story was better with all those different colors all over it.
It certainly stood out in the track. It was easy for us to find come race day.
It definitely was. There was no two like it by any stretch. Meanwhile, there's Jonathan Klein as he continues. He's in 8th place right now.
Well, as we've been speaking, Howard in the 2nd place has been running out in Cunningham about a 1/10 of a second a lap. For a long time, Cunningham was running 48.60s, was about 185 miles an hour every single lap, and now the tires are starting to go off a little bit. He's lost a couple 1/10 of a second, about a mile per hour in the racetrack. The tires are starting to wear.
Here they come down the front straightaway. We'll get another time as they come by. It's now down to 6/10 of a second between the two. It was at one point over 1.5 seconds between Cunningham back to Howard. And take a look, Cunningham slower than the last time we checked his speed.
Wonder if actually he's starting to make a mistake. Sometimes you push. You just saw him looking there in the mirror going down the straightaway. Jay Howard just wants to make sure he stays directly in line to get draft on him.
And there's a problem for James Chesson because, as we told you, if you come into the pits, it's usually a major issue because there are no scheduled pit stops. So bad news for PJ's brother. Jerry, you've got more?
Yeah, James Chesson has brought his car to a halt here on pit road, and apparently he thought he may have cut a tire. They are checking the air pressure in the right rear tire here. Wondering if he may have run over something on the racetrack. They had a little bit of a vibration. They weren't sure if the tire was going down or if he may have cut it. So they're going to come in and make a couple of adjustments here. Tough break for James Chesson, who was making his move from the middle of the pack toward the top 10.
All right, thanks, Doc. As you can tell with the split screen, you can see the battle for 4th still brewing. That's Lloyd, Festa, and Wood all lockstep. They're trying to find a place to make the pass. Man, getting a little dicey. That's the 41 car of Sean Guthrie on the high side. Whoa! I don't think that he saw him until the last minute there. Made the dart to the left, and these guys still going side by side through the corners.
That's 33 of Jeff Dodge still moving his way up. When I spoke to him the other day, he says, you know something, I've been doing all this open wheel stuff and going around to different short tracks around the country. What a dream come true to come to this racetrack and have an opportunity to run at the Indianapolis 500 Speedway.
Well, as they continue to motor at over 184 miles an hour around the 2.5-mile oval here at Indianapolis, we're going to step aside, but we're far from finished. We're working lap 31. There's 9 laps to go. There you see. 1st through 5th here at the Freedom 100. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the laps are winding down on the Freedom 100, and you're looking at Wade Cunningham, the 2nd car in line. That's lap traffic in front of him, and it is giving him a bit of a fit as the 3 car finally steps aside. That's Van Blankers, Brett Van Blankers, the 19-year-old who qualified 16th. He goes a lap down. The white car is Jay Howard. He is in 2nd place. He had fallen behind. We had just noticed while we were in the commercial break, Cunningham had turned the best lap of the race, guys, at 186.4. We thought his tires were going away, and he turned up the wick.
Turns up the wick, but that lap traffic there certainly just cost Jay Howard an opportunity to keep in the draft. Wade Cunningham, who's now actually got a bit of a break, and with like 7 laps to go, that is a huge part of this race right now, because that might have made it to a point where he will not have an opportunity to catch him, Rusty.
Scott, it looks to me like Cunningham is just, his front end is just right on edge. If he misses his entry turning just a little bit, he loses a nose in that car, because we've been watching the lap times. All of a sudden, you think his tires are going off. He has a slow lap time, then he comes back and picks up a big lap like he just did right now. He lost almost a second that last lap from 186.5 all the way down to 182 some miles per hour. So if he loses that front end a little bit, boy, I tell you what, it goes right away on him.
Now, we have to remember, he did go around lap traffic in that lap, so that might be the reason for that 182 falling off 4 miles an hour. We'll have to give him this clean lap now to see sort of where he's at.
So while this battle continues up front, Jeff Dodge is running back in the 9th spot right now, trying to pick up some ground. Jerry, you've got more?
Marty, Jeff Dodge earned an opportunity to run in this series by being the youngest finishing rookie, older than 18, at the Fast Track to Indy program this past year at the 45th Annual Knoxville Nationals for Sprint Cars. It's a unique program between the IRL and the Knoxville Nationals. The highest finishing rookie who is 18 or older gets a chance to run 6 oval track events fully sponsored by them and the IRL in this series. And Jeff Dodge is trying to make the best of it here, hanging to the top 10. And oh, by the way, Jeff Dodge's family, big race fans. When his mother was in labor and his dad was with her, they were watching an IMSA race, trying to decide what to name the baby. His dad said, whoever wins this race, we're going to name our son after him. Turned out it was Jeff Grabham who won the race, and thus we have Jeff Dodge. Jeff said, I'm just glad that it wasn't Janet Guthrie or Lynn St. James.
And he does spell it the same way as Jeff Grabham, J-E-O-F-F. And you saw him getting around the lap traffic of Phil Giebler just a little bit earlier. While this action continues, Jamie is back in the pits. Get an update on Eddie Cheever.
Well, he's watching his 2 drivers right now sitting in 5th position. Chris Festa in the 51 car. Eddie, this year all of a sudden you decided to pick it up and buy 2 cars in this series. What kind of benefit does an owner get owning a team in the Indy Pro Series?
I think it's a good place to train mechanics, a great place to train drivers. And the drivers get to run at the Speedway. At the end of the day, that's what you're looking for in a driver to drive in the IRL.
Are you looking for a driver like that you can perhaps bump up to the IndyCar Series maybe next year or the following year?
I think it's very difficult to say when the right moment is to put a driver in the car, but we're watching our 2 drivers, Chris and Nick, and I think every mile you do around here, it helps. So we're not having that great of a day, but it's not that bad. He's sitting in 5th.
Eddie Cheever, multitasking, decided to get back in the car for the Indianapolis 500 and buy a team in the Indy Pro Series, guys.
And while you were talking to Eddie, Tom Waringa had a brush with the wall. Take a look on the replay. The white car heading out of the groove.
Just up in the gray, just kisses the end of that safer barrier, but you know something? He just keeps on going. I guess no harm, no foul. Now, he's only got a few more laps left in this race, so as he's white-walled the tires, hopefully he doesn't have any suspension situations there where he might break a suspension part rusty and cause an accident.
Scott, you hit the nail on the head when you said just kissing the wall. That was just a kiss right there. I didn't even see that thing bounce off the wall. He just went up, put black marks down the side, and that was it.
All right, let's go back to the battle up front because it's getting interesting again. There is Wade Cunningham and Jay Howard. As look at the race speed today. Also, before all the English teachers call me up, Scott pointed out it's Jeff, G-E-O-F-F. I think I said J accidentally, so I want to make sure that English teachers know I know how to spell. Here we go as the laps are winding down.
This is good, guys. Right here, he's got the draft.
Can he make it stick going down into 1? Howard's on the low side, and he is sliding up. Oh, he's got it.
That's not nice. Boy, he pushed himself up there not to give him any space. He said, look out, I'm coming through.
Well, he waited on it, then he stood on it, and he passed him in the right time. 2 laps to go right now. This is going to be a drag race to the end.
Down the back straightaway, and now Howard trying to open up some air. But will Cunningham be able to pick up the draft? You know, this is the one thing you talked about in the keys to the race, Scott. Drafting is something they don't get this kind of track because they don't run on a track as big as this.
Boy, there's lots of maneuvering going on right now, but you know, these guys have to have the patience to get the end. As we also talked about, you cannot block, you cannot do the maneuvering like they're doing. Here we go, side by side.
White flag is out, and oh man, at the stripe, it was Wade Cunningham by 7/10,000ths of a second, and he goes into turn 1 on the high side. Can he make it stick? He's drifting high.
I can't believe they're side by side. Whoa, that's a bit of dirty pool.
Howard slides up on him, then dives back down. Now we're going down the back straightaway.
I don't know about dirty pool. I call that racing, Scott. Boy, he's doing some good driving right there.
Oh,
evidently
you're used to fenders, son.
Come on now.
Here we go. It's going to be Cunningham on the outside heading into turn 3. He's got the line. Can he make it stick again through the north chute?
This will be a drag race right down to the stripe.
Coming out of turn 4. Here they come down the the front stretch, and it's Wade Cunningham. Got a great exit off the corner. Howard is fading. It's over. It's Cunningham, his second career win in the Indy Pro Series, and what a place to do it.
And I don't believe it. I would have promised that Howard had that thing. He passed him on the inside. I'd have thought the inside groove would have won the race, but that just goes to show you 420 horsepower. You got to keep these babies wound up, Scott. What a heck of a job holding them off.
You know, and he certainly keeps the whole thing true to the past in the sense where the pole sitter has won every event, and he now makes it 4 in a row.
And led the most laps by a ton. And that tradition continues as well, as it was a great race, the last couple of laps especially. No yellows throughout the entire course of the event. We are guaranteed of a race record by a bunch. Let's go back to the white flag lap. Take another look at this great last stage of this 100-mile event. There they are in the back of the screen, coming down the front straightaway. A different perspective as they head to the line.
They are. They're all coming up to the traffic, but Cunningham in the red car on your left-hand side looks like he gets a run. Reminds me of the 91 race between Mears and Michael Andretti, and Indy cars going around each other on the outside of turn 1. Now here's the situation. The number 1 of Cunningham is going to duck underneath, and I would have thought he would have had a pass fully completed by turn 3. By the time they had the opportunity to get down to turn 3, and then we saw what happened in turn 3 and 4. Great racing.
Well, they're making their way towards victory lane, and we'll hear from all the competitors at that front. It is going to be good. Take a look. There's the top 10 at the Freedom 100, and we'll be back. Back here at Indianapolis, the Freedom 100 officially leading all 40 laps. Wade Cunningham, he's there with Jerry.
All right, he's in the car, getting ready to climb out, giving a big thumbs up to the media. And here comes a 21-year-old New Zealander. Let's listen in. There. All right, he climbs over here. Hey, and he'll get a nice cold swig. And this one, I think that's chocolate milk. So you get other kinds of milk on for the big one. Hey, congratulations. What about those last couple laps, Wade?
Well, I was having major gearbox problems, and you know, I had a comfortable lead and everything was good, and the drive kept chattering, so to make the car very, very loose. And so Jay caught up, and you know, I knew if he was leading last lap, I still had enough to get by him because I passed him so much earlier in the race. But you know, I honestly didn't think I was going to finish there, so I'm just super happy. Come for the win, and you know, it was a good race, and hats off to Jay, and you know, congrats to the Brian Stewart Racing team.
Now, right here, he got in front of you in the corner here, and you're trying to make a run on him, and he comes back up and sort of chops you off. Did you think you were done, or did you know you had a shot?
Oh, no, I knew he was going to go to the inside. It's the most logical place to go, but like I said before the race, turn 3's got a lot of grip on the outside, and that's how I was able to stick the move.
What does it mean for you as you come off and make that move on turn 3 and then are able to pull away and win? What does it mean for you to win here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
Oh, well, last year this race was the one that got away, so I'm super happy to come back. Really my first race back this year, and just come back with a big win, so I'm super happy.
Now, you grew up in New Zealand. There's another driver down there by the name of Scott Dixon who you watched growing up. Could this be an omen for Scott, maybe a double Kiwi win here on Friday and Sunday?
Yeah, that'd be great. You know, he deserves a good result. He's had a couple of tough years, but you know, he's back on top now, and hopefully he can do the same.
Hey, congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Wade Cunningham, a former champion, last year's reigning champion in his series, dominates the day here, leading and winning the Freedom 100.
Back in March, he missed 2 rounds because of appendicitis at St. Petersburg. Now he's at the top at Indianapolis. I think he'll take that trade anytime. Stay with us. We've got more. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's time now for our Checkers Rallies pit stop competition, as we are going to pick up the action in the semifinals. First off, we want to show you the brackets, show you how everybody has advanced to this point. It'll be the Helio Castroneves, who ended up being our number 1 seed alongside of Buddy Rice, the number 4 seed. Number 2 seed Dario Franchitti will go up against the number 6 seed Tony Kanaan. Now, there are penalties that come into effect here, guys.
We've talked about those penalties before in a situation where it's just like on race day. If you actually have a situation where you run over the air hose, or you actually have a gun that goes outside the surrounding perimeter box that you have. All those sort of things could be problems on race day because the other drivers might end up running over that equipment.
Well, Scott, a little while ago we saw a great pit stop by Scott Dixon, only to be foiled by a 3-second penalty because the air gun was out of the box on a right rear tire.
And let's get more on that situation from Jamie Little.
Well, Buddy Rice was the driver. He and his crew benefited from that mistake on Scott Dixon's crew's part. Now, if you remember back to 2004, it was Buddy Rice and his crew who completed the triple sweep. Guys, they won the race, they won the pole, and they won the pit stop challenge. Now, this challenge is so important for the teams. They win $50,000, and the crew members, they put their all into it, and right now they're getting their second win here. They thought they were eliminated in the quarters, and here they are in the semis, guys.
The total purse is $100,000. 50 of it, as you said, Jamie, goes to first place. It drops precipitously. Second place gets you $15,000. As you're getting ready now for Helio Castroneves, and he'll be on the right side of your screen. And let's quickly go through the process. They'll run up to the line, and you're racing the clock. You're not racing each other.
And I've done this before in this situation, and you sort of, once they give you the green flag, you want to beat the competitor beside you, but it's best to get a nice smooth exit and a good run into the pit box, get over the timing line, which is just at the beginning of the pit box, let your crew do the work, and then the exit pit line is just on the far side of the pit box itself.
And let's talk about exactly what they have to change and do.
They got to do 4 tires, they got to simulate fuel, and they cannot smoke the tires too bad leaving the pit box. That's going to cost them a lot of time if they do that.
All right, clock will start when they cross the line right there. Here they go.
4 Firestone Firehawk tires, a simulated fuel hookup, which they've already done. A little slow on Rice's car.
Castroneves, 7.7 seconds. That is the best we have seen the entire day. As they went through the qualifying round, there were 10 cars that started.
No penalties on the north end, Lou.
There you heard, no penalties. Let's take a look at Helio's stop.
Nice and smooth. You know how well Penske, he just does things so great. Precision on all 4 corners. Perfect timing of dropping the car, and Helio was away.
It's just amazing how these guys are so smooth. They practice this and practice it. This team Penske is really on their game when it comes to this.
Let's go to Jerry.
All right, Rick Reidman here. Rick, 7.7 seconds, quickest time of the day. Now, what was the key to that stop?
Well, Helio hitting his marks, and we've practiced it all week. Helio actually did us all a favor. He came in on his day off and got in the car, and we were pushing him in and out of the front of the garage. So, it's a team thing from the driver on down, and we got one more tough one.
You beat the time that won it all a year ago by almost 0.3 of a second. It's got to feel pretty good about that.
Well, it's only as good as the next one, and that's the one that that's the one we need.
Hey, good luck to you.
Thank you.
55-year-old Rick Reidman has been doing this for almost a decade and a half, and now you see how good he is and why he stays in that right front position. Vince?
Helio, nicely done. Hit your marks perfectly. Rick Reidman, your crew chief, gave you high marks. How did it feel for you?
They always tell me to hit the marks. They will be quick. Now I understand why. But, wow, those guys are unbelievable. It was an incredible time.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Let's keep going.
Well, it was Sam Hornish who won it last year for Team Penske. Can Helio do it? Well, we'll find out. Next up, it'll be Dario Franchitti up against Tony Kanaan. Memorial Day weekend means the greatest spectacle in racing. You can join us at the legendary Brickyard for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Capital One. You'll see it all Sunday, May 28th at noon on ABC. All right, we know one of our finalists will be Helio Castroneves from Team Penske. And we also know it will be Andretti Green Racing, but will it be Dario Franchitti or Tony Kanaan? You want to know why we show you this? Well, these are the unsung heroes. Remember what happened with Dario Franchitti coming into the pits? That was Steve Price as he got hit in the pit lane, and he is not going to be going over the wall as a result of some injuries he sustained in that incident. Let's get more from Dr. Jerry Punch.
Yeah, Steve Price has ligament damage in the right knee, torn PCL in the right knee, will not be able to get back on pit road for probably another month and a half. They're barring a tire changer from Michael Andretti. They will have Lenny Gauci changing the left rear. He has a different colored uniform than anyone else on the Klein Tools crew that'll be watching Dario Franchitti. Guys?
Green flag flies. Remember, racing the clock, not each other. So it doesn't matter when you get into the box, it's when you get out of it.
Going head against each other on the team, it's going to have to be a situation where somebody from Andretti Green is going to go forward. Will it be Franchitti? Cleanly.
8.4 seconds for Dario Franchitti as they just flew through it. Now, remember, Helio Castroneves had 7.7 seconds. All right, let's wait for any potential penalties to be called as Dario climbs out.
No penalties here, Lou, in the pit box.
We just heard no penalties in the pits box. Clean stop. Boy, very smooth. Now on the other side, see if we can pick up what happened to Tony. They were a little bit off.
Stop short. You see the guys actually had to start to shimmy their way back to get in front of the tire.
And then the left front with the jack.
Well, it goes wrong all the way from the very beginning. If you stop short of your marks and those guys have to move, their timing is off, and that was just wrong all the way from the entrance to the pit box.
Let's go to Jerry.
Well, Dave Popolars, despite having a guy down and missing a crew member, you guys got it done. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dario's driving real well, and we got a pretty good field of guys to dig into at the shop, and we dug one old guy out of mothballs, and he's helping us out on the left rear.
You're going to have to beat a 7-7 in this next round. What do you do? Where do you make up for time?
Dario's driving it into the box, so we're going to have to find it on the wheels.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Vince?
Dario Franchitti. Hey, you guys have been struggling a little bit on the track, but you look like you're turning it around here in the pit stop competition.
Yeah, we've had a good day today. We felt the Klein Tools Canadian Club car was fast and a good balance in the warm-up, essentially. The guys have just been smoking it here. We're struggling a wee bit because with the accident we had in Japan, we're missing Steve Price off the left rear, and we're feeling that today, but he's over there and he's cheering us on.
Good luck in the final.
Thank you.
Yeah, as a driver, Scott, you had mentioned it to us. We're going to commercial break, but you had said it weighs on a driver's mind. This would be a great payback if Dario can pull this off for his team. Stay with us. Find out who wins. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we are getting ready for the finals between Helio Castroneves of Team Penske and Dario Franchitti with Andretti Green Racing. Let's check in with Jerry Punch.
No one knows Dario Franchitti's team better than this guy right here, Steve Price. You saw the injury at Motegi, the torn ligaments in his right knee. And Steve, what's it going to take for your boy Lenny, who's subbing for you? They're doing a pretty good job. What's it going to take for them to beat this Penske team?
Just consistency. Be real consistent. Don't think about it. Just let nature do its course, because once you've done it once, it's habit. Just be smooth. That's it. Stay calm, be smooth.
All right, we'll see if they can pull it off. They're going to have to beat a 7.7 seconds, and that's going to be awfully hard to do, guys.
Well, Doc, Helio Castroneves, back in 2002, he won this pit stop challenge and went on to win the race. So right now he's thinking if he treats his crew members well and wins this baby, they'll treat him well on Sunday and perhaps bring home his third Indianapolis 500 victory. Marty?
Scott, you've been in this situation. You know more than anyone what it's like to be the driver. You want to win this for your crew.
You do, and it's because the crew does such a great job throughout the month of May. They're the ones that stay late when things are going on back in the garages, and you feel more pressure to get this done right for your crew than yourself. And we've won the thing twice, and it's just a great feeling to see the guys jump up and down because they get the payday on this, not the driver.
This is all about the pit crew. It's all about the pit crew. But the driver messes up, it's going to be a long night thinking about it, I'll tell you.
Green flag flies. Remember, the clock starts when they pull into the box. A $35,000 difference between first and second place. Watch the clocks, watch the crews. Castroneves at 8.08 seconds, Franchitti at 8.44 seconds, which means for the 9th time, Team Penske is going to win this. And, oh, if the omen is true again, look out for Castroneves on race day.
That was such a close one right there. That one was hard to call, Marty. Both teams were excellent. Both of them deserved to win, but Castroneves just by a little bit.
Let's go back and take another look. Both cars very smooth here.
Perfect stop on the marks. You heard the tires locking up. That means he had speed getting into the pit box. All the work is done very quickly, and a beautiful exit by the driver.
No penalties in the boxes, Lou.
So no penalties, so it's going to stand. Boy, just that there. Spider-Man's at it again.
He's getting a little practice. He thinks he can win this thing on Sunday, the 90th run of the Indy 500. He's already practicing on that fence. But you talk about consistency. His last run, the run before last, is 7.73, and this last one, an 8.08. Really good times, real consistent.
Let's go to Jerry.
All right, the man they call the captain steers his ship to another pit stop competition championship. Roger, congratulations.
Well, I'll tell you, what a team. This guy's, whether it's Helio's team or Sam's. Last year, Sam won this year. We're sorry we didn't go head-to-head with him, but real precision. This gives us more momentum going into the race on Sunday.
It seems like this day gives a lot of teams momentum for what happens on Sunday. 2 years ago, Buddy Rice won this and won the race. Obviously, you got two good cars. Are you guys the guys to beat on Sunday's Indy 500?
We'll just have to see. I think we got two good cars, but, you know, we got a lot of good competition here, Jerry. We just have to see, not make mistakes again on race day.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Let's head over and let's see what Helio Castroneves has come off the fence, Vince.
Well, congratulations. How happy are you to win the preliminary to the big one on Sunday?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is awesome for my guys. I mean, they show every race weekend that they're fantastic, and today it's basically the real deal, and that was awesome. I learned a lot with those guys. They tell me to hit the mark. Now I understand why, so good job, guys. I love you guys.
Why climb the fence today?
I mean, I did this when I won probably 3 years ago, and I could not make that, not happen. You know, it's like a victory. I know it's not the race, but for those guys, it is actually a good race. So, well done, guys. Let's keep now doing the same thing Sunday.
I'll do the same thing.
All right, down here with Rick Reineman, who is still getting congratulations. And Rick, and here's the whole crew. Get all the guys in here back here, Rick. These are the guys that pulled it off. 7.7 seconds in the semifinals, just over 8 seconds there. Congratulations.
Yeah, we slowed down there the last one, but we wanted to make sure that everything went as smooth as could be. You back it down a little bit, and it seems like it goes faster. What an effort by these guys. It's fantastic.
How much do you guys practice? I know it's really a point of pride for this Team Penske guys to come out and be able to make these stops. I know you spend a lot of time. How many hours a week do you guys do this?
Let me tell you, when this is over tomorrow, we got to get ready for the pit stop competition next year. And when we're back at the shop over the winter, we practice the pit stop competition with nobody rolling tires in. And I mean, it starts in the winter, and like I said, this past week, Helio took his day off to come in and sit in the car just so he could get used to stopping on the marks. What a team effort. These guys, can't be more proud of them.
And right behind you, they're going to give you a $50,000 check. Rick Reineman and these guys have gotten it done. Let's check in with Jamie.
Well, Dario Franchitti and his crew come in second. And Dario, you guys were struggling throughout the month, but today your guys stepped up. How much does this practice and this challenge help you guys for Sunday?
Quite a lot. It's been a good day, actually. The car felt very good this morning in final practice there, so it's been good, and they did very well. 0.4 of a second or something. We lost it by, but the pit stops were consistent. They were good, and I'm really proud of them.
It's good to see a smile on Dario Franchitti's face heading into Sunday. Marty.
All right, thanks. And you want to talk about the omen that maybe winning can bring you? In 1981, Bobby Unser won the pit stop competition, went on to win the race, as did Danny Sullivan, Jacques Villeneuve, Helio Castroneves in 2002, and Buddy Rice in 2004. Final thoughts, guys, as we head towards the big day now on Sunday?
Well, this was a lot of pressure today for the teams participating in this event, but I can tell you something. The next day and a half leading up to the Indianapolis 500 is pressure on everybody, the complete team, the guys in the garage, making sure that everything is on that car. Last preparations, there cannot be any nut and bolt wrong, any loose clamp. That'll put them out of the race. That's the pressure on the teams right now.
I'm going to add another guy to my I think I can do it list. That's Dario. I like his attitude right now. The other day he was down, he was mad. Now he's up. He says his car's handling good. He's doing great. Talk about practice and talk about pit stop practice. Before I went to Homestead Test and I went up to the Penske shop to get understanding of the Indy cars, they were practicing pit stops back then, Scott.
So now for Sam Hornish, who was the quickest in practice, Wade Cunningham, who won the Freedom 100, and now we add Helio Castroneves with the Checker Rally's pit stop competition win. Don't forget, Sunday, Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Capital One, noon Eastern, for the 90th running here at the Brickyard. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Coming up next, it's Sports Center right here at Indy with Dr. Jerry Punch, Scott Goodyear, and Rusty Wallace is going to be on that as well. $50,000 goes to the crew. We'll see you on Sunday.